because I'm hot under lights. I don't do coke, but we didn't get into that.
Oh, okay. You know what I did? I went live on StreamYard and didn't go live on YouTube. See what happens when we are way too long?
That's okay. We ain't gonna do it next time.
It's okay. It's all
Well, at
right.
least I'm here.
I got
We're
special.
here.
We're
We're
here.
here. Yes, we're here.
All right, is everybody here? We
y'all.
so sorry,
Mind
y'all.
you.
We so sorry.
So do we want to start over? I mean, we ain't
Hey.
perfect.
It's not a
Listen,
problem.
oh, for real?
Listen.
Okay.
Well,
It's y'all's call.
Looks like we are,
but we got people here, so
yeah. I mean,
should we
Because
y'all
they
want us
didn't
to
hear
start
that we
over?
say it. They
Because
didn't hear that we say
we
Might
only
as
7
well.
minutes in.
right. We're in
All
7
right
minutes.
then. All right, we're gonna start it over. Rewind,
All right.
selector.
All right. Welcome back to welcome back to our spiritual interlude. You guys can hear us and see us now with your hostess with the mostesses, Aisha with Goddess Moon Dips with the Z. Remember the Z, guys, okay? And Oma's Herbals. Hey, Marquita. And we have a special guest with us tonight.
Sunflower Jones.
Oh, I'm supposed to be saying my name.
Okay.
Thank you for
I didn't
coming.
notice it. No, it's not.
Thank
Hi
you for
guys, my
coming
name is
so
Sunflower
much.
Jones. I am your neighborhood life coach,
And we love
hopefully
her.
you guys enjoy me tonight.
They will.
Definitely.
They will. We do.
Definitely will.
I
So
ain't got no
tonight,
choice because I'm here. So
okay. Right.
Boom.
there's that.
So tonight's topic could get a little heavy. I just want to put a little disclaimer on there. I just want everyone to, take a deep breath, breathe in, take in the information, because we're all in this together. We're all doing the healing thing together. That is the point. So, it could get a little teary-eyed up in here, could get a little misty, but that's okay. It's all right. We're going to get it together. Crying sometimes is good.
Right.
So just let it out if you need to. Of course, we will be taking questions. If you have any questions for us while we're sharing our stories, sharing healing tips and things like that. Maybe you guys have some healing tips for us. So just share it in the, in the section. And I'm going to turn it to Miss Aisha. I don't know why I'm putting her above me. That's what I'm pointing.
Well, yeah, it makes sense.
You're above me, so I'm pointing up. And she has some things that she would like to share.
Okay. And pretty much this is kind of piggybacking off the disclaimer. And I am a note taker. I take notes. I've been pretty much kind of writing down things that have kind of downloaded in my spirit, and food for thought. Let's say we're gonna go ahead and say that is food for thought. So one of the things I want to say about addressing childhood traumas. Just because a childhood trauma is being addressed doesn't mean it's coming from a disrespectful or facetious space. But from a healing space. We can't continue to tiptoe around uncomfortable subjects to keep a person's peace while we're living in turmoil. It's important that we find our healing and our peace. Also, if a person gets offended with your truths, you might want to question if they're really about your healing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Childhood traumas, if not healed, causes blocks. Like we said, we're all in different stages of our spiritual journeys, and along your spiritual journey is healing, elevating to your higher self. So if you do not heal from traumas, you're going to block yourself. You're going to cause roadblocks, and that's going to cause you to live in victim mode.
Right.
And it stunts your growth and causes you not to be as open to receive things, to elevate forward. Okay. You got to be open to receive spiritual growth and elevation, and you just got to be open. So we want to we want to unblock things so we can, like I said, be open to receive some stuff. Also, people got to realize that people who have had childhood traumas, most of us tend to pass out those traumas while raising children. So you have to be cognitive of that. Like I said, it could be unintentional, but that is something that happens. And basically, make sure just allow spirit to heal you. This is part of your journey. Allow spirit to heal you. And that's what I have. Those are a few of the notes that points that I have with this subject.
Okay, and I'm going to step in with the self-care portion of that. Um, with not to say we keep saying piggyback over here, but um, to just go with exactly what Aisha is saying here, that self-care and spirituality hand in hand, because in order to reach your higher self, you have to take care of self. There are going to be blocks if you do not address childhood trauma, or any trauma for that matter. We all have them. Some people don't realize that they do have them, but they do, and they've shaped the adult that you are today. And what happens is that when you recognize what they are, you tend to learn how to deal with them, and it actually changes you and it helps you kind of break free, because you don't realize it, but you're kind of chained up by the traumas. It's kind of holding you hostage. You know what I mean? So once you learn to recognize the trauma and address it and see why you made the choices or did the things you did was due to this trauma, and heal that, then you can move forward to learn better things and even learn more about yourself. Because unfortunately, with those things taking precedence in the most formative time of your life, you did not get to know who you were, because you were too busy dealing with these things indirectly by little things that you did to either protect yourself from it, or to shield yourself, or anything of that nature, to avoid it. So pretty much, what you have to do in your spiritual journey, the first thing is to address your childhood problems, the traumas, let go of them, heal yourself from them. And that way you can elevate yourself and be the best version of you that you want to be. Learn who you are, what you like to do. Some people don't even realize how creative they are until they focus on dealing with that. In spirituality, we call it shadow work. You got to deal with all of the negative parts of yourself that you pack away, because you don't want to deal with that and you want to avoid that, but you don't realize just how much it affects you in your day to day, with the people that you love, with the people that you just deal with. Just walking into a store, we always wonder why somebody will walk into a store and just automatically, these 20 little triggers that hit them, by the time they get to you, they're yelling and screaming, and you're like, what is your problem? So all of these things play a part in your growth as you vibrate to your higher self spiritually. And with that being said, I know we said we're going to discuss our traumas quickly, and I decided that I was going to address a trauma that I cannot, for the life of me, deal with. It's still to this day at almost 50, and I still get triggered by it. The first 8 years of my life, I grew up in a domestic violence household. It was violent. We had more bad days than good. And I love both my parents. You couldn't tell me nothing about neither one of my parents. And the crazy part about that is I have the worst trigger for yelling. Do not raise your voice at me. If you raise your voice at me, automatically I'm ready to fight. And if I can't put my hands on you, I start to cry, and then I literally will have an anxiety attack. So I thought I was good, because I've been pretty good the past 5 years at addressing issues that I had. But that issue that I cannot break away from is the yelling. I still get triggered, even at my job. I still get triggered. I do try to walk away. It's always been my go-to. Once I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna walk away from this situation. But there are times when I can't, and that's what I'm trying to learn how to deal with. You know, so yeah, that's what I'm working on right now with my childhood trigger. I can't take screaming and yelling. I don't like to scream and yell. I'd rather talk than to scream and yell. I'd rather have a conversation than to scream and yell. And I actually go into a monotone. I was just reminded by a certain person that I go into this monotone. So, but I guess that pushed me into almost passive aggressive sometimes now. But that is an issue I cannot break for the life of me. I find it easy to just go upside someone's head. And that's what pushed me to be violent growing up, was that if you're going to yell at me, then we might as well fight. That was what I was taught. So I'm dealing with that still. Sarita, you got anything you want to share tonight?
Yeah, I'll say my trauma comes from, I grew up in a very small town, very small, wasn't a lot of Black people. And so basically I grew up being the only Black kid in my classroom, or just being the only Black child, period. And how I went through, like, even with my hair, I went through a complex. Like I've told you guys this before. I've been locked 3 times.
Right.
And this is the first time I felt comfortable with my locks, because I'm now comfortable with myself. Like, I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable with who I am as a person. But I still deal with it. On the flip side, I still have that, like, I still just have that little bit of insecurities as a child. Like, when you don't look like everybody else.
Right.
I got made fun of because of my eyes and my nose and because of my hair. So at a young age, I wanted my hair to be relaxed because that's all I saw around me. I didn't see no other Black people around me. My family, that was pretty much it. And it was like, even now, I still have a little bit of that give and take. Like, damn, I wish I looked like this person type of thing. Like, I still have sometimes, but I cut it out of my head like, no, I am a bad bitch. So,
okay.
Be nothing. But I think one of my triggers is like when my kids is yelling. I grew up with a lot of yelling in my household. A lot of my family is and I know they probably gonna whatever, but they're very loud. And I'm very quiet. I was always a quiet child. I really didn't speak up for myself. And I think that's why I overly speak up for myself now, because as a kid, I didn't get to do that. I didn't get to say what I really felt. And so now when I speak up, they be like, yeah, I'm not 12 anymore. I'm 32. Let me use this throat chakra. And that's something that I had to work on for a long time, is speaking up for myself, because I did not do that as a kid. I would get bullied and all that. I did not say anything until one day, I got into a fight, and it was like, okay, let me not mess with this girl. She's a little bit crazy. So, So yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it, not trying to be overly, I guess, combative maybe, or just overly, I don't
confrontational.
know. Yes, because I don't like confrontation. If I can avoid it, I will. But if we have to have a conversation, then it could be that. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on that. Not being so angry.
Yeah.
And holding grudges, because I will hold a grudge. I ain't gonna lie. I will hold a grudge. So yeah, that's my story. Miss Aisha.
Okay, well, y'all know me. I'm about to hit bow because I like to. Hey, I've learned that you have to be open and honest and just real with yourself. That's the only way you're gonna find some peace, and I can relate to each one of you things that you said. But one of my childhood traumas, and I still deal with it today, and I'm still trying to navigate it. But my childhood trauma are how my looks equated to guys and girls sexualizing me. Okay, that's why I have a really big issue. I don't like when my looks are the center of attention, because for me it wasn't, oh, you're pretty and that was it. It was, oh, you was pretty and things happen. Until I was a certain age where I could say, no, that's not happening, so that is something that I deal with. I still kind of deal with. Like I said, I don't like when, I just don't like the over ooze of, oh, you're beautiful, because it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me cringe. So that is one of the childhood traumas that I deal with. And then also, like I said, I've always been different. I don't look like nobody, so that also, my looks kind of made me feel uncomfortable. And I get offended by certain comments like, oh, well, you're pretty and da-da-da. And it's like, you don't understand. Y'all might feel that way, but you don't know what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like I've had a lot of traumas because of the way that I've looked, I, like I said, didn't look like no high yellow pale, funny eyes. My hair at one point in time was sandy brown and blonde. I didn't look like nobody. So that caused me to be bullied and things of that nature.
Okay.
So yeah, so yes, my looks is definitely, I've dealt with a lot of childhood traumas because of my looks, and that's why I make it a point to say, no, don't see out here, see in me.
Mhm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
somebody's in my face all the time, it's a red flag for me, like, nope, I don't want that, because you're so consumed with the outer, you don't even take time to get to know the inner me. So that's something I still deal with.
Right.
I can relate to that. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
So, Miss Sunflower Jones, would you like to share uh, any traumas?
Let her looking back. I'm so done with her.
Or even have some responses to our childhood traumas, because I'm always looking for ways to heal.
Right. That was my second part. Like, give us what you gathered from us. If you'd like to share,
Oh,
we'd like to hear. You're the rebuilding
give
coach,
me,
so
yeah, can y'all give me just one moment, please? So just talk
yeah.
amongst yourselves and discuss
Okay.
your triggers because I have some amazing things that I have written over here. Give me one moment.
You
Okay.
got it.
So hold on. She said, "Wait a
Listen,
minute.
we
Let
got
me pull out." She about to pull out
about to
pull
pull
well,
out
it out.
pull it out.
Yeah.
well, you see me, right?
My mother.
Listen.
I see my mother. She said, "You sure didn't." Thanks, mom.
Yeah. Listen. I can relate. I can relate to that though, because I developed early. Like
Hmm.
my
I was
body
a late bloomer.
developed.
I was a late
I,
bloomer too.
my. Ooh, I wish I was. I was 12 when these things started
I was
coming.
I was I was 15,
And I was such a tomboy. I was
and
such
they
a
just
tomboy. I was
Well,
like,
I'm
oh,
42 and mine's still yet to show up.
I was
So
like, oh, please. I don't want this. I'm only 12. I want to
yeah.
do flips and dips.
yeah no,
Mm,
I
Yeah,
didn't get any till I was 15,
maybe. I
yeah. And
remember
and the curves didn't come until after I had kids.
I
I was just like,
remember the summer. I remember the summer going into 6th grade and I was in tears.
oh,
really.
I was like, Mama, I
And
don't
oh, okay, she back.
know. Oh, she back.
She back.
Oh, you know what my trigger is? When I tell you I'm busy and you keep bothering, let me stop.
Mm, I can relate.
No,
sorry, y'all. I'm getting
no,
over
listen
this
to me.
my allergies.
So here's the amazing part. Well, not the amazing part, but the amazing part about trauma is when I went to, as we all have our own traumas, and you think you have an idea and grasp. What I wanted to do when I was, gathering all my notes because I'm a note taker. Um, I really wanted
Scorpions.
to break down truly what um how to really define childhood trauma. So I figured I'd break it down into what is childhood trauma, what actually constitutes as a traumatic event, because sometimes you might be living your best life thinking you've had the world's greatest childhood. Not saying that two things can't
Mm,
be true because duality, right? But
right.
you may not realize that what you experienced was something traumatic because it could have been the norm for you, right?
Mm,
So I'm going to also explain like what are traumatic events and what experiences can be traumatic and what are some signs of childhood trauma because maybe you exhibit signs but you don't know what to do. The trauma types, people who are typically at risk for childhood trauma, risk and protective factors, and different tips on how to heal or how to get started on healing childhood trauma. And the good thing about these tips is I am a big advocate for mental health. I will always push for people, especially my people, to go to
mm,
see a therapist. But I do know the hardest thing is to admit that you need help first. So the first thing
Mhm.
I can do is at least give you the stepping stools and the starting tools. You know what I mean? A little map, a little compass, some breadcrumbs, a little bit of water as you start your journey into healing so you can at least start to address these things so that when you are ready to go to therapy, you can at least have a blueprint of I have all of these pieces. How do I fix this puzzle? You know what I'm saying? Because baby, I'm a life coach, not a miracle worker. I just need you to understand that. Because I'm just saying, I am not Helen Keller's teacher. If you get where I'm coming from with
Yeah,
that, right?
she was the bomb.
So So to start it off, my name is Simone, but I also go by Sunflower Jones, the rebuilding coach. and I help people rebuild themselves into better versions of themselves. So if you do go through such as a traumatic event, or life has just been rough and you are ready and prepared to make that change, I am the coach for you. I basically help you unpack what you have went through, properly process it emotionally and logically, and then I help you start to create your building blocks to become the version of yourself that you ultimately see yourself as. So let us get started on childhood trauma, right? So, what is a childhood trauma? So, childhood trauma is an event experienced by a child that threatens their life or bodily integrity. Physical or sexual abuse, for example, can be clearly traumatic for children. One time events like car accidents, natural disasters, medical trauma, and many other different types can take a psychological toll on children as well. So, the biggest issue about childhood trauma is we often forget that children are little people. Yeah, they got
Mhm.
opinions, they got feelings. For example, I asked my child today, "Hey girl, you wanna go brush your teeth?" She was not happy with how I said it. I don't even really think I said it horribly, but good sis definitely told me I pissed her off. So, just a reminder, your child is not your property. Your child is an anatomical person with feelings and emotions. The same way at 7, you ain't like when little Rodney pushed you off the swing. Baby, your child is dealing with their own little Rodney. And make a little space and give a little room for that. Because when you, especially as a parent, like Aisha said, when we do have childhood traumas, we don't realize we pass them on to our children. So one way to be at least cognitive of you passing on, think of it as gifting your trash to your child. You don't want
Mm.
that. So think about how what you're gifting to your child, right? So if you are understanding or aware that you have childhood traumas, one thing you, especially as a parent, sit back and give yourself this saying, because it was one of the things I told myself when I became a parent was um ask for the same, like basically ask for the same grace from your child that you should give to your mom. Do you know what I'm saying? I have to be able to
Mhm.
go, I have to basically show her my child I don't know everything for her to gain the empathy of understanding that I didn't know everything. So if I can teach her that I don't know everything now, but I'm willing to learn along the way, whether it's to help better her or help better the both of us in any situation, she needs to know that so that I am given that grace of I'm allowed to be seen as a human. I can make mistakes so that in 30 years, I don't have as much childhood trauma to unpack with my small, tiny human. You get what I'm saying? So that allows for, if I can show you I'm a human, you have no choice but to see me as a human outside of being your mom. And you'll be more cognitive of my feelings and how I do things because I'm in a better space to process these things. Girl, I did a lot of work. Okay. I did a lot of work. Woo, was it for the faint of heart? Mm. So, so that's like one of the first things, right? So now let's think about what constitutes a traumatic event, right? So a traumatic event is a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that poses a threat to a child's life or bodily integrity. Witnessing a traumatic event that threatens life or physical security of a loved one can also be traumatic. This is particularly important for young children as their sense of safety depends on the perceived safety of their attachment figures. So, for example, if you are a child or a product of domestic violence, you ain't never going, security is going to always be like a high strung situation for you. Security
Mhm.
and stability will always be high strung situations because the people you are looking toward, whether it be your mother, your father, or whatever your adult caregiving figures are, these are the people who are supposed to keep you safe. So if you have parent A who's terrorizing the whole household, right, and you're looking to parent B to keep you safe, but they can't even keep themselves safe from parent A, that's going to have some issues with how you perceive being safe. For everybody, home equals being safe. So if home is the most unsafe place for you, where else do you go?
Mm.
Right? So now at that point, how do you constitute with coping? You try to create a home outside of home. And that can cause obviously people to create bad choices, right? Also, traumatic experiences can initiate strong emotions and physical reactions that can persist long after the event. Children may feel terror, helplessness, or fear, as well as physiological reactions such as heart pounding, vomiting, loss of bowel or bladder control. Also, children who experience the inability to protect themselves or lack protection from others to avoid the consequences of the traumatic experience may also feel overwhelmed by the intensity of physical and emotional responses. So, being that if you're somebody who's experienced maybe let's say emotional abuse or even physical abuse, right? Somebody probably oversharing or somebody breaking down and crying, you may not know how to appropriately react to them in that moment. I will give a prime example. I am the life of the party. I can make anybody feel amazing. I can change the energy of a room. But baby, you start crying in front of me, I get stuck. I don't know what to do. I will be like, child. Right? And I'm gonna hand you some tissues and I'm gonna rub your back and I'm like, I'm gonna hug you because that's what I do in my capacity. But for me, tears are like growing up, tears was not a mover. So it's not in my repertoire of coping skills. You know what I'm saying? And that could be true for a multitude of different things and reasons in life, right? So, what experiences might be deemed traumatic, right? So, of course, the very first and the biggest important ones are physical, sexual, and psychological abuse and neglect, including trafficking, right? Now, trafficking doesn't have to look like I done sold you to John down the street. Trafficking can easily look like, so I gave you to Uncle Johnny, and then after 3 years of your life, Uncle Johnny gave you to his friend cousin Earl, and then cousin Earl let you live with over here. Like that is also a form of trafficking. So when you allow your child to bounce from family member to family member to family member to family member, that is a
Wow.
form of familial trafficking, right? Because at this point, you don't really have the close eye on your child the way you want to. Um, for example, I was actually just having a conversation with someone I love dearly, explaining that their generation was traumatized because once a year, I was literally shipped down south people that you only met possibly twice a year. We sent y'all down there for whole summers, like 2 summers, and was like, I'm hoping for the best because they my family. Not knowing your great granny been verbally abusing Daryl down south. You don't even know that he all sad and he don't want to go down south for the summers. So the summers don't make him happy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Because most of the guys you're thinking this is your family, that they're gonna love your child the way you love your child. And baby, sometimes that's just not the case. Some
Mm-hmm.
people may not like your child because you love your child. And
Mm-hmm.
so that time, sometimes you're creating a childhood trauma for your child. You know what I'm
Baby.
saying? There's a lot of people who have childhood traumas because other people just didn't like the fact that it was love. Like it
Mm.
simply does not. That will be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you
Oh,
something.
baby.
If someone is jealous of you because you are loved, it is because they too want to be loved and they don't deem themselves lovable. And so they get angry because they nitpicked and was like, what's so lovable about you? And then it reminds them of what they may
Mhm.
deem is not lovable about them.
Mm.
Wow.
That
Yep.
was
Yeah,
good.
that's deep.
That would, ooh,
That is deep.
I felt that.
I did too, because I
Yeah.
can definitely say
Experience.
my children have dealt with that.
Mm-hmm. Mine too. I have too.
Because yeah, just because I love my kids and they know their mother loves them, they
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
weren't received by certain friends. You know,
Because how dare that happen? How dare they
Yeah.
happen?
how dare, yeah,
Some people don't understand that love. They don't, because they don't got it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even the
Wow.
friendships like you know, the older I got with my mom, uh, I didn't recognize it young then, but then older, I was like, dang, even that, like,
Yeah.
even, I'm like, dang, people's jealous because, me and my mom, like, we're like real cool. And even now as an adult,
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's
You'd
how it
be
is.
shocked.
Yeah.
yeah, like, because they make comments like, well, I didn't know, you and your mom,
Mhm.
y'all friends. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, we cool.
You ain't
I'm
friends
like,
with your mama. Let me stop.
I'm a
I
grown ass
Right.
be
woman,
saying that. I'm like,
Hey, I'm like, I'm a grown ass
Right?
woman at this point, as she is too. I
That's
mean,
my
and
best
Right.
friend.
you know,
Like,
I'm not no
That's
baby
my
no more.
bestie.
She can't
that's
Yep.
my
talk to me
bestie
like,
best.
our conversation ain't the same at 13 as
Right.
43. It's different.
Well,
Hmm.
remember back
Exactly.
then we wasn't one of their little friends,
No,
and
But
now
now,
now I'm your
we
best
You gonna
friend,
be
grown.
my
look at
best
y'all
Now
mama.
that's my
now.
best friend.
Look
Hear
at
me?
y'all now.
Now I wasn't your little friend. Now I'm your best friend, mama. She on
That's
here.
right.
Your best friend.
Best friend. And I know my mama watching
Very
this. You my
aggressive with
best
that
friend.
camera. I got a little scared.
Look, Lord.
Right.
Listen, ain't nothing like your mama,
So,
man. Nothing
like,
like it.
Ain't,
That is your
ain't.
best friend. You don't
yeah.
Yeah,
realize it till you get older that that's your best
Facts.
friend.
that is. That's my dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
But
dog.
even if
Show
that
up.
ain't your best friend, you always at least get to say to somebody, "My mama told me about your ass," and that at least makes you
Okay.
feel
That
better about
part.
yourself.
That
You know what I
part.
mean?
Woo.
I'm
Yes,
just
ma'am.
saying.
Right.
Cause
Facts.
that's my go-to. I go real low.
Hmm.
But so like I was saying, of course, experiences that are traumatic can be physical, sexual, psychological abuse and neglect, including trafficking, natural and technological disasters and terrorism. So those children who were probably between the ages of 5 and 8 when Sandy happened, and they were possibly displaced, right? Or you may even have like the children who are over in different areas, such as maybe Palestine, the Middle East, who are living through war-zoned areas. That's traumatic in itself as well. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You could have remembered going outside playing, and now because you've grown up in the wartime, naturally you're like, oh nah, my children don't go outside and play. We have all our entertainment in the house
Mm-hmm.
because this is how I know to keep you safe. Family and community violence, i.e., inter-partner violence, where maybe you got siblings beating on each other, family members beating on each other, or say you live in a very horribly police urban area. Just seeing your friends pass by a certain age can do something to you. So that in itself is a childhood trauma. Then, of course, you have sudden violent loss of someone, a loved one, and that can simply just be children of people who died by suicide. Something like that is traumatic in itself, especially if you have the wherewithal to understand what happened, or if you find out that you wasn't told the truth about what happened, and then as time goes on, you find out because you choose to dig and look things up. Of course, there's substance abuse. If you're the child of someone who's on substances, or you yourself could be a child who got on substances. Obviously, like I said, refugees and war experiences, serious accidents, or life-threatening illnesses. Maybe you got hit by a car, or maybe you battled and beat childhood cancer, and that could be a thing for you. And the one that really got me, that threw me for a loop, was military family-based stressors. So like children of parents in the military, i.e., if you're born and your parent went on deployment, if your parent actually passes on while deployed, or if your parent
Hmm.
comes back and they hurt, it get a little deep. So they
Yeah.
might sometimes don't know how to process their own hurt, and so they lash out at other people. So, like when
Hmm.
children have been in situations when they feared for their lives or believe that they will be injured, witness violence, or tragically lost a loved one, they may also show signs of child traumatic stress. Right. So, what are the signs of childhood trauma? I can't read the questions if anybody has any. So please let me know so I can pause and discuss anything someone says. Um, signs of childhood trauma. Traumatic reactions can include a variety of responses, such as intense and ongoing emotional upset, depressive symptoms or anxiety, behavior changes, difficulties with self regulation. And that's typically your biggest teller, where you don't know, like a big sign of self regulation is I go from 0 to 100. And you think what you're saying is like an amazing thing because you think that you're self aware, right? Because you have no problems going straight to the matter of the problem, right? What you're really telling
Hmm.
people is, I ain't got no self control and I can't regulate myself. So if you say something that I don't like, I'm gonna blow up. And see,
Over.
girl, just like me, when I hear
Mm-hmm.
that, I go from 0 to 100. That lets me know, oh, so you don't know how to self regulate. So I got to put on my kid gloves when I let you know adults don't engage like this. And I won't engage with you
Hmm.
like this.
Hmm.
So that is how you have to work with that. Self regulation plays a big part. You may not, that's sometimes your biggest tell of childhood trauma is you don't know how to sit down and go, I'm angry, but seriously unpack why you're angry. Instead of going, oh, I'm angry. No, you're not angry because she said it. You're angry because she's probably the 15th person who said it. And you're tired of people saying that to you and or about you. And that was your trigger. That's why you reacted the way you reacted. Right? Once again, they may also have problems relating to others or forming attachment. Regression or low frequency acquires skills, attention, and active, right? So now when you realize that, hey, oh snap, girl was talking about me. I got childhood traumas, right? How we gonna unpack it? First, you need to figure out what amazing imaginary trunk where you keep all the dead bodies of the people you don't like in your mind, right? Where does your trauma sit in that trunk in your mind? So there's the different trauma types, such as bullying. Were you a child to experience extreme bouts of bullying? And I'm talking about those children who, a lot of us be like, sometimes we'll be like, these kids are suck. How could you let someone talk to you on the screen like that, right? But in the same token, these children, because they want friends and they grew up in the social media era, they are friending people who don't even like them on Instagram. So the people who don't like them are continuously messaging them that they either unalive themselves, they're not worthy, they're horrible people, right? And then you put another gang of people who goes, we're gonna block and unblock them, block and unblock them, do little things that are quite antagonistic that would hurt anybody psychologically, right? And so bullying is a childhood trauma. And bullying is deliberate or unsolicited actions that occur with the intent of inflicting social, emotional, physical, and or psychological harm to someone who's perceived as just less powerful. And typically that's off of because it's mostly children or even in adults. It's because I physically see you as being someone weaker than me, right? Then of
course, not to interrupt you. Also with bullying, I find that most of those kids that are bullies are actually bullied sometimes themselves at home by an older sibling or a parent.
A parent, yep.
So they're unleashing the same, you know what I'm saying, on someone else.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen it working in childcare. I've definitely seen that.
Oh, somebody's up from their nap.
She's multitasking, guys. She's mothering and presenting. We all, I'm sure most of us been there. If you have children, you got to learn how to multitask.
Yeah, all types of capes.
Zelly don't like to let her out her sight.
She's like, "What you doing?" Huh?
Who you talking to?
Yes.
Yeah, I can definitely. I've seen kids who will come into that school and start bullying.
I dealt with like a lot of bullying. I just wanted friends. I was not a violent person.
Yeah.
Until I got tired of being bullied, and then I became a violent person.
Yeah.
I mean, for real, because it was like I took control. Like, you're not gonna keep on like punking me, and and I want to love people. That's that's the core of me. And then you got these people.
I was like, I'm so nice. Why don't they want? Why they not nice to me?
Yeah.
Now you know what's crazy? I was bullied a lot up until I got to about 13.
Pushing me and stuff, and then one day I was just like, I'm about to bust your ass because
that's exactly how it went down. And because of that childhood trauma, I actually taught my kids how to fight, and it wasn't even in a traditional way. Like, I hit my kids. Like, you gotta learn how to take a punch. Once you take that first punch, you can take everybody down. And I literally, like, when I think about how I was in those like those raising them situations, I was rough. Like, I would straight, boom, you good? You got this? All right. And you can take on anybody that swings your way. You got this, period.
You don't want them to be bullied.
Right. So everything that I felt that was weak in me, I went 10 toes down to make them strong to eat anything that came their way.
Right. Because like you said, you don't realize you're passing off your trauma.
Nope.
To your child, like we were saying.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yes. One thing I loved about my kids, though, I always let them talk. Like I Like they can ask me questions and I answer whatever question they ask me. As a kid, I used to be told to be quiet and I talk too much, so I became very and small.
Same, same.
Sorry, Simone. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Go
no,
ahead.
I'm just listening. I was letting y'all go. I'm the one who keep pausing and stuff because motherhood, girl, a thankless job, and that's why I just be taking PTO. Anyway, um,
I guess I must be the
community
others that have to be
violence.
prepared.
That's the one. Nah, for the community violence, people who live in very heavily gang related areas, right? So if you grew up in a situation where, let's say, your whole family grew up in this one area and there's always been gang violence from your grandmother to your mother to you, then because it's interpersonal, they're unintentional acts, you can feel away, right? And so that creates trauma. Then the one that breaks my heart the most is complex trauma. And the reason that breaks my heart the most is I'm a firm believer in there's no way your time spent on this earth is supposed to be continuous suffering. Like, I don't believe
Mhm.
that. I
Yes.
refuse to believe it. That's a hill I'm going to die on. And complex trauma is actually one of those things that a child can face where they are continuously traumatized or placed in traumatic events, such as that child who, on top of being taken into foster care, every family they've been down around to, maybe it's been either physical abuse and or emotional abuse or sexual abuse or any of those things where it's just continuous over and over. When they are constantly re-traumatized, it's considered a complex trauma.
That's my
And that's
mother.
actually a form of a childhood trauma when you have it
Hmm.
so much compiled. Right. And of course, children of natural disasters such as floodings, hurricanes, early childhood trauma. And that's actually just trauma that's generally anything traumatic between the ages of 0 to 6. So
And it
anything
must
that's
be the
wild,
prime years.
yes. So there's childhood trauma, but then there's early childhood trauma. So childhood trauma is
Mhm.
anything from 7 and up. But early childhood trauma is anything from the age of 0 to 6.
Oh God,
So if your family
I'm all
experienced
jacked
something
up.
like super traumatic, what?
Said I'm all jacked up.
So, like, if you experience something super traumatic before you were 6, it's considered having early childhood trauma. But don't
Mhm.
worry, we're about to get into the risk
Okay.
and everything after that to explain, though. Like, it's all about how the trauma is dealt with while it's happening or after it happens, or
Mhm.
Mm.
right? Then, of course, there's intimate partner violence, which is also known as domestic violence. That is a trauma. Um, that is that occurs when an individual purposely causes harm or threatens a risk to harm in either any past or current spouse or partner. Medical trauma, like I said, children who get sick at early ages or who constantly battle being in and out of the hospital. Physical abuse, refugee trauma, which is just simply going to another country and having to learn a brand new language and things like that, and having to deal with that culture shock as a child. Of course, sexual abuse, sexual trafficking, terrorism and violence, and then of course traumatic grief. So that was the one that really caught me, was traumatic grief, because I was like, what in the world is that? Right? And so while many children adjust well after a death, other children have ongoing difficulties that interfere with everyday life and make it difficult to recall positive memories of their loved ones. So maybe a traumatic grief could be, yes, you're upset and you're sad that your father passed on, but it might be hard because they weren't a very loving person the entire time. So you're
Mm.
missing the loved one in the relationship of what could have been, but in the same token, you don't, because it's like you feel like you know who the person is and stuff like that. Right? Of course, everybody is at risk of a childhood trauma, but unfortunately, some of our fellow humans are more prone and more at risk, right? So, of course, some families and children are disproportionately represented among anybody who are experiencing trauma, which means that there's certain people who will just experience trauma at a higher rate. Is that okay? Not at all. But unfortunately, that is the physical plane that we live on,
Mm.
right? And so, ones, of course, these are the few types of families or people who come from families similar that are more likely to be at risk for childhood traumas. So, people who have experienced trauma with substance abuse, either the parent was a drug user or whoever the primary caregiver is. Economic stress. We completely ignore that sometimes. We constantly pride ourselves on, I got it out the mud.
Mm.
Yeah, but the babies didn't come with mud on them little Peppa Pig sneakers you don't bought. You get what I'm saying?
Mm,
So we have to be mindful of the fact that economic stress can play a part on childhood trauma, because some you can, it's kind of like how we make those comments and we make little jokes when we go, oh, you can tell he ain't grow up, he grew up, he ain't never had nothing, because now he done got some money and he's comfortable with spending $1,000 on very frivolous things that you be like, why would you do that? And it's
right.
because I can, because I have the money now. When there was a point in time I didn't have the money, I'm not even thinking about having the money tomorrow. I'm excited I have the money today and I can blow the money today, and that's all
Right.
that matters, right? Then of course
Mm.
military and veteran families, simply because just becoming and that whole process of being a soldier is a traumatic experience in itself, right? Intellectual and developmentally disabled. So if you have a family where there is somebody who is probably developmentally disabled or intellectually disabled, there's a chance that there would be a high situation of childhood traumas from either the fact that someone has to now figure out how to be the caregiver as time goes on for this family member. And it may not always be a parent. The parent might be grooming other children or maybe an older child to
Mm,
take care of the sibling who is developmentally delayed, or um, basically forcing the family, you have to take care of them when we can just all work together to properly get them the proper help to be independent enough on their
mm,
own, because at some point they will be by themselves, right?
Mm.
Of course, the homeless youth, and of course, our LGBTQ and A youth, simply because coming out is not the softest or kindest thing for some people. And so, simply, they are most likely typically prone to childhood trauma because their first experience with trauma is typically the feeling othered. And that's because they don't understand the difference between sexual identity, sexual preference, like all of these things. And because you don't have the wherewithal to truly understand and unpack it, all you can easily comprehend is that you are othered. And so a lot of that then doubles down with the bullying and things like that, because people can other you. So when we think about traumatic events, right? What makes an event super traumatic is, how did you handle going through the event, or how did your caretakers handle going through the event that you experienced, right? Most of the time, childhood traumas, especially for children who have been abused sexually, is I told somebody nothing was done, right? That's always the
mm,
biggest, like, how dare you to their face. And that's why we have to think about the risk and the protective factors about our children who experience childhood trauma. I'm sorry, y'all. My computer keeps shaking and it's like Harlem shaking in the cut, and I was just trying to fill it out. Like, you gotta relax. So, like, fortunately, even when children experience traumatic events, they don't always develop traumatic stress, right? So many factors contribute to the symptoms, including whether the child experienced trauma in the past, the protective factors at the child, family, and community levels that can reduce the adverse impact of trauma. So, for example, the severity of the event. How serious was this event, right? How badly
mhm,
was the child, was the person attached to the child that the child loves, was they physically hurt? Did they have someone they love, or someone that they love need to go to the hospital? Were police involved? Were children separated from caregivers? Were they interviewed by a principal, police officer, or a counselor? Did a friend or family member die, right? So let's say you have to figure out, okay, how severe is this event? So when you think about your own trauma, seriously sit back and ask yourself, how serious was the event for you? Right? Really
mm,
unpack these things. Like I said, like, was it the person who was physically hurt attached to you, or was it you? Right? Then, of course, you have to think about the proximity to the event, right? Was the child actually at the place where the event occurred? Did they see the events happen to someone, or were they a victim? Did the child watch the event on TV? Did they hear a loved one talk about what happened? Because sometimes you know that someone passed, but you may not know how they passed, right? And then time goes on, and then you find out how they
excuse me.
passed really crazy, and you be like, why ain't
Sorry, guys.
nobody? Oh my God! And so now you're trying to process this traumatic event because it's just something that happened so close to your family, right? Like we mentioned with children of who survive sexual abuse, right? Your caregiver's reaction when you felt you was brave enough to share what happened to you. Did your family believe that you were telling the truth? Did your caregiver take your reaction seriously? How did your caregiver respond to your needs, and how did they cope with the event themselves? Like,
Mm.
a lot of parents don't want to believe something bad happened to their child, and not as a reflection of the child, but simply on some, I don't believe I was that neglectful, or I don't believe I
Mm.
missed the signs. So it's easier for me to go, it didn't happen because there's no way I wouldn't have seen no signs like that. When the reality is, it's okay. Some people are deceiving. And once the veil is pulled off, once you decide, whatever action you decide to take after that is the intentional action. It's how you feel about the event that you now have the knowledge of, right? Prior history of trauma. Does this child continue? Will this child be continually exposed to traumatic events? Because that is more likely to develop traumatic stress reaction. And obviously, family and factors. What is the culture and the race and the ethnicity of the children, the families, and the community? Because that actually is a protective factor as well. There's certain religions that they handle things their own ways.
Yeah.
So certain abuses that children face because of their religion, we'll handle that ourselves. Don't worry about calling the cops. Don't worry about, so we're going to talk to the rabbi. This person must sit with
Mhm.
whomever is our spiritual advisor. We're going to deal with that in our own manner. And that's how it is. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Um, and that's also what helps having the, it also helps with allowing the family with resources with buffering against the harmful effects of the trauma, or even maybe just maybe the crime. What happened was with someone within the community, and your religion is allowing them to continue to do what they do because if you speak out, you won't be protected from a bigger community and things like that.
Right.
So
Hmm.
sometimes people are angry, but they are forced to have to understand and interact with understanding that because of my family's religion, this bad thing happened, and because of their ostracization, they couldn't afford that, and so unfortunately, I suffered. That's a lot to put into work, and it's going to take a lot to break down and really get to the root cause. So the greatest thing though is you can work on healing your childhood trauma. So that's my favorite part of it all. Is I love learning new things. I love finding new ways to be a better version of myself. Every year, people tell themselves, "It's a brand new year, brand new me." No, girl, same old me. I done learned some new things, so I'm working it out. So my New Year's resolution is always try to be a better person than I was the year before. So one thing you can do, which is my favorite, is create a blessing bowl. So if anybody want to take notes,
I
this
like
is
that.
the time. Perk up, put your listening ears on. I'm sorry, I used to be a teacher, so it's a
Okay.
habit. One, two,
Come
three,
on.
eyes on me.
Look, I'm
You
with
know what I
you.
mean? Turn them on. Because this gonna be the part you tuned in for, right? How do you heal childhood trauma? So one thing you can do is just to get a start going is um you can start very first with asking questions, right? Ask yourself why. Why do I feel like this, right?
Mhm.
So does accepting yourself mean shedding off your default setting of self-blame for 6 hours? What does it look like? Do you have a habit of blaming yourself, shaming yourself? If you do, ask yourself why. Because typically you sit with shame because there's a part of you that feels like you know better than to have made the decision you've made, right? But the greatest part about that is every day you are ever growing, ever learning, ever changing. It's information you are
Mhm.
constantly downloading that makes you a better person than you were just 12 hours ago because you learned something, right? So you have to be
Mm.
cognitive to tell yourself, I just learned this. So yeah, maybe I did know better, but I chose to make a decision, give something a chance, and maybe that didn't work out. So in that situation, I know not to make that decision. It doesn't necessarily mean turn myself off from similar decisions in that limelight, right? Also doesn't mean buying yourself flowers as a treat, right? If you go, I find myself being lonely because I want things. Go out and get yourself these things until you can truly understand why do you feel lonely. And you can start small with flowers. You might be like, you know what? I feel like I want something to brighten me up because I've been sad. Pick up some flowers.
Mhm.
Oh, I think no questions. I'm so sorry, y'all. I don't see no comments. I can't see nothing.
No, I'm look.
So
Oh
if
no.
y'all see questions because the host, y'all can let me know.
I'm working on that.
Um, no, you're good. So basically, ask yourself questions so you can further your self acceptance, right? So I have moments of getting real deep in my mind and get real paranoid, like, girl, don't nobody like you. And then I'll be like, girl, half the time I don't like nobody. But that's when I get to talking back to myself,
That's me.
right? So when you think about it, I go through the whole, oh, everybody don't like you, right? But then I start
Sorry.
unpacking it. Why do I feel like everybody doesn't like me,
Right.
right? Well, what's the reasons of why I feel like that, right? And then I'll sit back and go, well, this is how I'm feeling about myself. Does it make those things
Mm,
necessarily true? Well, no. If those things aren't true, let it go, wash it away. If I feel like those things are true, then I'll sit down with myself and further deeply break it down. If I may feel like people aren't good friends to me because they use me, right? Then I have to sit
Mm,
back and go, why do I feel like people use me, right? And that may make a pro and con list or make a list of what are these things I think people use me for. If I feel people are
mm,
using me, now I need to really break down. Well, if I can say they're using me, I need to be able to cognitively say, this is what I feel like you're using me for, right? And then you can go, people use me because I'm a wealth of knowledge, right? You can be totally
mm,
upset, but then tell yourself, well, because I am a wealth of knowledge and I share it so freely, this is why I feel as if I'm being used, right? But then you can sit back and ask yourself, well, I do give freely, which allows people to feel like they have an open boundary and an open door of entering my space to ask me questions without me having any type of energy return. So when you think about that, start asking yourself, why do I freely give information? Do I find myself to just throw information out there to people to go, hey, look at me, I'm smart? And then that makes you unpack another layer of why do I feel like I need to be seen? Was there something in my life that
mm,
happened that made me go, I have to constantly fight for people to see I'm worthy of a relationship that you should keep? And then am I picking up people who don't actually see the worthiness of the relationship? They just see me as somebody who freely gives things away, such as information and a resource. Because anybody's going to take a resource that you're willfully giving away.
okay.
okay. I have a question
So
here.
gospel, y'all. Spin
You
facts.
ready?
That was a word.
Yeah. Oh, I got one question before we made our way through the healing. Why is it so hard for Black men to address old traumas? It seems a weakness to address it, especially talking about sexual abuse. And that's because, unfortunately, we have been socialized. So, as Black people, we get double socialization and we face what's called a double consciousness, right? So, we constantly
Mm-hmm.
see ourselves how white people see us or how others see us, and then we constantly see ourselves within our own communities and our own reflection, right? So unfortunately, depending on what portion, because our community is quite vast, right? But it's kind of like a little pie. There's different sections and factors into the Black community, and we're still working on understanding intersectionality within our community. So the issue is we completely ignore and negate sometimes that our young boys will grow into men who also have to process this trauma. So what happens is we don't just tell our children, period. We constantly, for example, with sexual abuse, right? We'll tell little girls, go put shirts on, Uncle So-and-so's coming over. When the reality is, granted, yes, you should be appropriately dressed, even though I do believe it's your home. And if you have to say that to someone, then you shouldn't invite this person into your home. Because I'll be damned if I invite you into a space where someone should be safe, you're making people unsafe, right?
Mm,
But we
mm,
tell it to girls, but we don't give that same extension to the boys in our family, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
bad things are happening to our boys, and our boys don't know how to process and explain it because we're also telling them, boys don't tell, boys don't cry, boys suck it up, boys deal with all of this, when the reality is they're children. They're little humans and they cry and they get sad. And we should work on that with our children where we just go, no, we're going to openly explain that anyone in your personal space that makes you feel uncomfortable is a problem.
Right.
So
yes.
we move
Simone, I was gonna
on.
say also,
Moment.
don't you think also, unfortunately, also the whole like, and I think it's really bad in the African American community, like the whole like patriarchal mindset. You know what I mean? Like sexual exposure to boys, that's okay when
Yeah.
it's not.
Not.
Even
Mm,
when they're, it's sexual experience is supposed to validate their manhood, opposed to
Right.
like literally you're a little boy that got taken advantage of,
yeah.
period. And I think that's a jacked up mindset, and that happens a lot because you even see like example, what's Bootsy, little Bootsy, where he
Yes.
around basically saying, I'm gonna buy my son a prostitute so he can get his virginity taken. Your son will lose his virginity when he's ready,
Right.
Right.
not, why are we
Right. And
forcing
who's to say he doesn't want that to be a special moment with the woman he loves? How do you
Exactly.
Right.
steal
that?
someone's anatomical choice? How do you take
Yeah.
their autonomy away from them? Like, and
Exactly.
there's no way you can tell me you love your child when you're willfully taking their autonomy away from them.
Away from you.
And
Yeah.
And then
so
you
that's what
telling the
makes it
whole
hard
world
because
that.
we, right. So they basically, what happens is we're basically telling our young black children, our young black boys, that to prove to me you can actually earn your right into manhood, right? And there's no right into manhood because manhood
Right,
looks like things for different black men. For one
right,
black man, manhood might be, I've grown up with my father, so I'm going to follow in his footsteps of how he provides for a family, right? But for
Mhm.
another black man, manhood could be, I watched my mother work her behind off to take care of me. So I want to make sure that any woman I encounter, if she's similar to that type of woman, I want her to understand that I see her and I want her to feel seen, valued, loved. So that's the kind of energy I exude out. It's
can I
everybody
also
has their
add
own
to
experience. And yeah, no, go ahead.
I
You
know,
just took it.
oh, I'm
You
sorry.
said you wanted to add.
I just wanted to add to that also is that unfortunately, just like little girls are sexualized, little black girls are sexualized, I find that a lot of times that young men are taught to be predators in that aspect. So
Yes.
by Boosie going and getting his son a prostitute, you're teaching him that's what the value of a woman is.
Woman is.
Now,
Yep.
the sad part about that is that because, like you said about telling your daughters to put on clothes because we're protecting them, air quotes, from someone else when technically they're not being fast or that they're in their home, right? But in the same token, what I think what a lot is not said in our communities is the young boys are preyed upon also. A lot
Yep.
of times people always say things like uh cougar,
Mm-hmm.
right? They say cougar a
Mm.
lot. And and I've watched women push up on
Younger.
young men. And I mean, I had a young man push up on me about 8 years ago. So I was like in my late 30s. And I laughed. I thought it was cute. I said, that's so sweet of you, but I'm sorry, I have a saying. And he asked me what was the saying, and I was like, nothing that could have come out of me can come into me, okay? So he
Mm-hmm.
thought the whole store laughed. They thought it was so funny. But I said to them, I said, I have children your age. I don't understand how women and men to feel comfortable sleeping with someone or having sexual relationship with someone that can be your child. And this is a real twisted mindset that we've adapted. And I don't think that we generally had this. I think this comes from a lot of mixed up things that's happened to us in our community through, like, people don't want to discuss slavery, but slavery has a whole lot on us. And this is why going back to our spirituality helps us to sort through a lot of these things, a
Because
lot of these traumas, a lot of this trauma that you're discussing, Simone, even from childhood, some of that trauma is going back generation to generation to generation. That's why
and
the new thread now on all these social media sites now is breaking generational curses, but people don't even realize how deep these generational curses
generation,
go.
yes. Because
Facts.
you got to think about our grandparents, like my grandmother, when she was raising her kids, she
Yeah,
was on the board that she had just got away from segregation. Like
yeah,
I can remember my mom telling me stories that when she grew up, segregation was ending. I'm like, what? What?
yeah.
You know, it because it wasn't that long ago. It
Mm-mm.
really wasn't. It was not
Right.
that people act like slavery was such a long time ago. It really wasn't. Like some of our
And you from the
grandmothers,
South, so you know the Klan came through very heavy.
exactly. Some of
And
our grandmothers
yeah,
were
my
Mm.
part of
grandmother was
that.
born in 1933.
So
So if you compare anything that's my grandmother was literally born 13 years after Red Summer.
mm-hmm,
After they would bomb, like destroying black communities, she was born.
mm-hmm,
Which means that
Mm.
my grandmother and my great grandmother and my great grandfather lived through that. So
mm-hmm.
it's not as far back as
It's
people like
not
to
as far
project
back.
Mm.
slavery and they ostracize slavery, but there's a lot of things like
Like a
when you
generation.
think about right, when you think about when we talk about sexual abuse in the black community, when you think about that, it's twisted and we don't understand it because we don't understand how deep the trauma go. That even if you see, I always say this, and I say this to my kids too, you have to go back into history to kind of understand that.
Yep.
Like it's not a right thing to do, but when you go into deep, that's why that whole this is another story, but critical race theory is very important because if you go back into what was actually done to black people, black Africans in this country that was stolen, when you really think about everything that they endured, the inhumane treatment. There's a lot of us now when you tell people like, you got a twin. They damn well may be my twin. Because during these times, they had people, they were mating sons with mothers and they were mating siblings. And they were doing all of this to breed a perfect slave. So, we've been a little twisted in the way we think about certain things. And we just don't want to accept it because I think us as a community as a whole is a total trauma. That,
Yeah,
that,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
we
Yes.
got to work through the childhood traumas, but the crazy part about it is we really do have to go deeper. But technically, I'm gonna be honest with you, you got to take the childhood trauma first and then go deeper because you'll get lost trying to figure out, where it goes. But it'll put it all in perspective. But you'd have to understand, like everything that we go through, you have to understand where did it come from?
Yeah,
You
and I
understand
think
what I'm
that's
saying?
why it's
AKA
important
ask
for parents.
questions.
Yeah, like
Yes.
I think it's important for parents to tell their children the truth. Be open with them. Be honest with these things that goes on. You have to be honest because because then when we get older, sometimes we just now figuring out all these traumas. Like when I go back to visit my family, I'm like, yo, I'm just now
And
finding
that's
out a
simply
lot
because
of
you're not
stuff.
even in a presence. So you don't think
Right.
about it because you're actively
Right.
doing the work.
And like when they be
Right?
saying stories and stuff, I be like, yo, we got a lot of work.
We got
Oh,
some
we
more
got
questions. They started coming
let's
in,
see.
baby, when you got out there, me and
Yeah.
Simone.
Yeah. So all right. So what are your suggestions to help people create safe spaces for communication? Start with yourself. Always start with yourself. Start to create a safe space of telling yourself you are safe. You are not in You're safe. You're not in any danger. And then allow another way to create a safe space is start with your friends and your family. Let them allow them to tell them something whether you judge it or not.
Excuse me.
Allow them.
Excuse me.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Well, okay. Well, we could talk.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Oh,
good.
okay. I was about to say
So
now, grandma's in action. I
so
seen the background.
yeah.
Grandma, like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Grandma looking
That's my
everything
best
like,
friend.
excuse
And
me,
she wanted to
excuse me.
know when we was going to do our routine of chilling and relaxing and
I
unwinding.
love
Oh, so
that.
she ready to
And
meditate.
I
Is
was
that what she
like, I'm sorry, boo. Yeah, I said, I'm sorry, but I'm cutting into your time. I'm so sorry. So, to answer that question on how do you suggest suggestions on helping people create a safe space. So the first thing you think of what you want a safe space to look like, right? Do you want it to be judgment free? You want everyone to feel seen, and you want everyone to understand that whether I agree with your feelings or not, your feelings are valid. And when we are ready to process on why it may or may not be inappropriate, we'll deal with that later. But first, let's discuss how do you feel and what do you feel seen? How do you feel seen? So one of the first things I do, at least creating a safe space for me, is I start off with my friends, right? Each of my friends requires something different from me. So I show up as my full self and then figure out what do they require from me at the time, right? After that, sometimes I have friends where they just need to vent. I have some friends where they are waiting for me to give them feedback. And I simply ask them, is this a situation where you just want to vent and get yours off? Is this something where you want me to give you the back and forth, where you can kiki with me and get it off, or is it something where you want me to take this serious and we want to sit down and talk about it, and you want my honest opinion? And that's ultimately how you create a safe space. If you genuinely love the people, or you really push for and you're loving for them to be better versions of themselves, you just want to give them the opportunity to I'm making how you feel valid. The action you took or whatever you went through, although it can be a horrible situation, we can work around that because it's all about what how you experience it compared to what you experience. Let's see, that was one. How can you heal your childhood trauma while raising children? So this one's my favorite because your children will constantly trigger your childhood trauma. They will constantly do things that'll have you snap, right? And you won't even realize you're snapping. So, for an example, one long childhood trauma that is in at least the women in my family is typically they are the breadwinners. So once we have to take on that full-on responsibility of being breadwinners, it kind of hardens us up and it doesn't allow us to be our full soft selves. So because of that, right, because I'm outside dealing with all these different energies and entities, I can't come home and hug you and love you the way you feel like I should. Like I need to be hugging you and being all over you every night, right? And so what happens is my mom's mom did not hug her. So in her mindset, it was, "Well, I take care of you." How does that not show you I love you? Because if I didn't love you, I wouldn't take care of you, right? And that's just
Mhm.
kind of time where my mom may have done the same thing, but she may have expressed in different areas of her way of saying she may have loved me, may not have been a hug. But girl, you went to the Bahamas when you were 16. So if that don't tell you I love you, I don't know what else that can, right? And so one thing I had to actively deal with when I met my daughter's father was his experience and his childhood trauma was people would still hug and kiss him and then still did horrible things to him. So in his mindset,
Mhm.
he couldn't understand and fathom why I wouldn't hug and kiss. And I'd be like, "You're doing a lot right now because your behavior, bro." And he couldn't fathom or understand it. And the wires just was not clicking for him, right? But I have to understand that my child is half of him and she's going to need me to do the cuddling, the kissing, the canoodling, and things like that, right?
Mhm.
And so I have my moments where I'd be like, "Girl, if my mama was dealing with this at my age, she'd have told you go lay down. There's nothing to talk about." But
Do y'all
I have to
remember when we
remind
were on Vine and we did a like a little Vine clip and I walked over to her and was like, "I'm gonna give you a hug and a kiss a day," and she turned and was like, "Why?" That was so real.
like,
Y'all
why
didn't
would
even
you?
realize that was so
That's out of
real.
your norm. You wouldn't do that.
And she was just
Like,
like,
whatever you
"Why
do,
would you do that?"
Mhm. I know about that.
right? But if you talk to my child and you ask her that same question, does your mom give you a hug and a kiss every day? Does your mom tell you she loves you every day? I,
Mhm.
with no hesitation. Oh yeah, of course, your mama does. But
Yeah,
had
I
you
get
asked me
crap
that
because
same
I do that
question,
every day for her.
no, here's a joke. If you asked me at her age that same question, my answer would have been no.
Mhm.
You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So they will be triggering, but you have to take that time and that private time to sit down and go and ask yourself, okay, wait a minute. Why is what this little human is doing making me feel so big and angry inside? Because at this point now, you don't have the regulation skills to understand why. So you really need to, if it's a question, give yourself some sticky notes and write these questions down every time your child does this. Because it is genuinely something you can work through and understanding because they are going to show you why you are triggered. Another question: how do we handle people that are uncomfortable being naked? Is this being around naked children?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, I'm not saying everybody got to be comfortable with being around naked babies. I'm not saying it, but what I am
Mhm.
saying is simply, in a situation, a step that I use that's a good preventative step with my child is, although she's in her home, she is allowed to dress whichever way she would like, but she understands there's parameters in the home where she can be dressed like this. So in order for me to open my front door, I have to walk downstairs. But she truly understands if you want to walk around the house in your underwear, I cannot tell you no because this is your home and you should feel safe in your home. But you understand that you should not be crossing certain doorways undressed. If in this new technology age, if you are on webcamming with somebody or video chatting, right? Your child should understand that no, at this point, even though we're in our home, this video and this screen is also projected outside of our home, and so we should be paying attention to what we're wearing. Also, another thing is tell your children exactly what things are, right? So don't give it no nickname, baby. It's a penis, it's a vagina.
Yes.
Explain all of these things to them. And then you can randomly, children love to tell you about their day, right? So you can randomly
Mm.
say to a child, how was your day? Who did you play with? Did you hurt anybody's feelings? No. Did anybody hurt your feelings? Oh, where you can just randomly go, where's your bathrooms located in your school? And they'll just tell you. And then
Mhm.
the next day randomly ask them, who helps you go to the bathroom? Right. And then the next day you can go, oh, do you wipe yourself or do they help or how much do they help? And every day you can just get a grasping sense because your child's so excited to share, you'll get a grasping
Mm-hmm.
sense of how they see the world. So you can question them every day and they wouldn't think twice about it. And because you're being open and honest, they know as time goes on, they'll realize you were just being safe. But they're
Mhm.
never going to realize why you were being safe or how it was because it's like, oh, I created that sense of security and safety. But as for like if this is somebody who you feel like you want to, if the person was uncomfortable with being around children who are naked, that person is somebody you would want to deal with. I mean, I can see why you would be uncomfortable by a naked child, but in the same token, if you ain't sexualizing said child, I don't see what the problem is.
Why
But
you
that's me.
uncomfortable? Yeah.
To each his own is your thing.
And then
So
also people, like, if you've had sexual traumas, you got to be careful not to reflect your sexual
project that
trauma
onto
on
your
your
child too.
children. And a lot
Right.
of people do that and they don't consciously recognize, like, okay, I'm thinking warped and I need to, you know what I'm saying, because I don't want to put this energy off on my
Right,
child.
because you, for example, a child, a person who could have suffered sexual abuse, right, can have a child, and let's say the child is the same sex as them. So of course now you're like, I don't want what happened to my child, what happened to me to happen to my child, right? So
They
now what
can
comes
demonize
with
the
that
opposite
issue,
sex, their opposite sex
right?
child.
Or it could even be that as well, right? And so then what will happen is, um, I done use the words vaguely touching, right? And now a touch on the shoulder from a teacher. Hey, by the time you done told me about it, I'd have been like, open up an investigation. This is man, this da 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 da. All because I didn't have the proper words to tell you what is an appropriate touch and what is an inappropriate touch. Or even basically saying if you don't even feel comfortable with people touching you, that's valid as well. Don't be forcing your babies to hug people. I'm just saying, y'all.
I
Don't be
was
And
forcing your
finicky. I
babies to
never
hug
let
people.
nobody was able
Adults
to
be
change my
funky too.
daughter's diapers.
Okay.
I never allowed
You see what I'm
anybody
saying?
to
Like
change my
everyone's
daughter's
different.
diapers.
I say
Yeah.
work well within your comfort zone and genuinely figure out what do you deem as a red flag for you. If that makes you uncomfortable, that they're uncomfortable, or if it's something about it, like unpack that and figure out what it is first
Right.
before any decisions is made. I struggle with speaking up for myself. What are some ways I can make it a little easier? So, you know what? I'm gonna come back to that question because I want to finish off our healing childhood trauma. Because I'm gonna answer that question. That question is a beautiful one. It's a loaded one. And it's one of my favorites. So, another way outside of asking yourself questions, you can create a blessing bowl. I love those. You can go ahead to your local dollar store, get a little Tupperware bowl, anything of that sort. Um, and every day you can write down something that you categorize as a blessing on a piece of paper, and you can fold it up and place it in a bowl. And you can use color paper. You can make it as creative as you would like. And the blessing could be anything from the absence of something annoying. It could be a positive change or a moment. It can be a sweet note that your child may have written you. It can be the fact that you maintained exercising for a week because you decided to do something new. Basically, do it for a month, and then on the last day of the month, sit down, make the time to reread all of these amazing things that happened to you for the month because it'll teach you gratitude. It'll force you to sit and be in your gratitude in the present. Because you may not even remember when the train came on time, but you could just be grateful, like, yo, that was a small blessing that it was on time. Or maybe your train came late, but you still got to work on time. That's even a bigger amazement and a blessing in itself. Because once you can see the little and the great things in your life, it's a little easier to recognize, okay, this wasn't a good thing, but it's okay because I can change my outlook on it. Become a gardener of your spirit, right? So one thing I love doing, one of the first things I did when I started working on myself was distract myself from working on myself. So I bought plants. And amazingly, though, as I took care of this plant, it forced me to take care of myself. Because, baby, I can't be sick and not water my baby. She needs me. I can't be too late coming home or staying up too late because then I won't have the energy enough to repot my baby and put her in better sunlight and give her the love and the maintenance that she needed. And upon pouring that onto my plant, I naturally gave it to myself because it's kind of like having a pet. Who's gonna feed my puppy if I don't feed my puppy? So that is something that definitely happens. So you could just buy something, create something, but garden your spirit. Create something that's a small seed that you are allowed to bloom, that you can track as time goes on, so you can see the change in yourself. Um, Another thing is take a real look at the child you were, right? Like genuinely sit back. A lot of I noticed a trend within the Black community is a lot of us have issues with our parents, right? And a lot of it may be like, I think you was the worst parent ever, right? But a lot of us don't want to sit back and truly, really start to unpack. When I feel like you was the worst parent ever, what critical years of my life was it? and was in my heart of hearts, and this has nothing to do with victim blaming. This is mostly people who have childhood trauma within their teens, where you do know right from wrong, you know how to make better decisions, you understand that in certain instances, people are just looking out for you, hopefully, depending on your home life. But really look back at the child you were. Were you a difficult child to talk to? Were you a child who shut down? Did your
Mm.
parent attempt to try to change and go, hey, what's going on? And your natural reaction was, it's useless to say something now. Like, is that one of those things? Sit back and ask yourself, because you can have valid feelings and being angry at your parent for how they treated you. But if one of your reactions to how they treated you was acting out as a child, if you cannot actively say, I acted out because I did not feel seen, if you're just going to constantly scream that you're angry, but you can't express what you're angry for, then you might have to sit back and take a real look at the child you were, because something's missing. There's a disconnect. Because at some
Mm.
point, this may not have always been your reality, but you've held on and maintained that because it must have been what you've known, because you've been so used to sitting in it for so long. And that is what I like to call deep rooted childhood trauma, because you have forced yourself to believe that this is your reality. And so you must always react in this manner because this is always your reality, whether it is true or not. And that is something that you should really work on, because it warps your sense of perception, as well as how you deal with others when you're dealing with things, right? So like I said, and like Trini, figure out who you genuinely was as a child. So literally find the old photo of yourself as a child and look at it as a stranger might. Do you see the person that other family members saw? What do you see and think of that child? And talk to that child and empathize with them and empathize with the sadness and the empathy that you see in their eyes. And you can even say to that picture of that child, like, it is not okay what you may have went through. I want you to understand that. But every day you were growing and you were unpacking that and you were healing from it one step at a time. Allow yourself that grace in the space of it. And so I'm going to go to this comment and then I'm going to go back to that question because I'm coming to the end. As a man, it seems unfair to go into a relationship and still have to address things from my childhood that causes emotions that can still break me down. So now what you're saying is, I greatly appreciate you for saying that, because you at least have the self awareness to feel that it's not right to emotionally burden somebody with the things you have to work on that are ultimately for you. So what you're speaking on is what I like to call a enlightened relationship. So you have traditional relationships, or what's called typical relationships, where we're both two people where we're just forcing ourselves to find things in common. And then you have what's called an enlightened relationship. And in the space that you're in, I'm assuming that you would want an enlightened relationship. And the cool part about an enlightened relationship is that each party works on themselves separately, because they know working on themselves separately will naturally benefit and better the relationship. So I would say, try to look for partners that are understanding that you want to work on yourself without burdening them. You can explain to
Mm.
them without breaking down, like, this is a trigger. There is something that I've went through that I haven't unpacked yet, and I want to unpack it first by myself. And when I have the words, or when I'm in a space to share, then I can share um, with you. And then what it allows you to do is, it gives them the space to go, okay, so you're not hiding from me. You're just not at a space where maybe you have the words to share and open up with me. And the cool thing about that is once you get to that space, we have now created and opened up a whole nother level of intimacy, because now we're relating on a deeper level, because now you're truly feeling like I see you and you see me, which means you love me fully naked, no clothes, all flaws, and you still think I'm the one for you. And I can do nothing but appreciate and respect and reciprocate that back, hopefully.
Mm.
So I would say, for the person with this comment, just consistently work on those childhood things, work on those traumas. If the person you are dealing with triggers it, even if you don't have the words yet, you can say, "Hey, what you did just put me in a place of unhappy familiarity."
Mm-hmm.
Even if you feel like using the word triggered is just thrown around so much. What you have
Right.
done, this action you just partook in, not even you as a person, but this action you partook in, has put me in an unhappy, familiar place. And I don't like how I feel. And I have to work on why it makes me feel this way. But until I figure that part out, can you please work on not doing this action? And it just allows the space for us to grow together and be better with communicating. Because if you think you're good at communicating, 9 times out of 10, I could bet you 100 grand you're not. You're not as great
Mm,
at communicating as you are. Oh, and that's just me, even as a life coach. I thought I was an amazing communicator, and I met someone communicated completely different and engaged with them, and my communication skills got 10 times better because I was able to communicate in a whole new realm, in a whole new manner that I had no way of communicating before. That I would have been like, why would you say that? That doesn't make sense. But once you start to find new ways to communicate, it's a little easier to understand why maybe somebody have made the choices that they made. Um, what's another thing? Oh, and lastly, create a letting go ritual. These be my favorite. I prefer fire. I'm a
Rita
fire
too. She
girl.
likes to burn.
Um,
She likes to burn.
yeah, I'm a fire girl.
I like to
I burn
burn too,
differently than
baby.
others.
Love
I
it.
love
I
to
burn a little
burn.
differently than others. I speak what I want to get rid of and let go. Then I light one in the air and
Mhm.
like let it go. But
Hmm.
other people, what you can do is if there's things that you're holding on to, I don't care if you got to write it down um 55 times for 5 days and let it burn until you feel like each day, and you can even journal whatever it is. You can write on this piece of paper what you want to let go, and then put that paper outside in a safe space, let it be on fire, and boom, right? You can do the same thing with water. You can rip up said issue on the paper, mix it in water, and flush it, get rid of it, or anything of that sort. And just allow yourself, it may not be a full-on physical letting go, but what it does is it allows for a physiological and a mental let go, which naturally when it's on your mind, it's in your body, so your body will start to let
Hmm.
it go, and then it becomes a little easier to unpack for yourself. So something that may be too hard to talk about now, maybe 3 months from now, it's a little bit easier to brush up and talk about it. And then maybe 6 months from now, you can actually sit down and unpack it. And then maybe 9 months from now, and then maybe a year from now, you can fully have a discussion on it because you're just in a better place because you started doing that.
Can I just add one more thing when you're doing the
And
letting go rituals?
of
Um, Forgive yourself after each one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Forgive
Also,
yourself. Forgive yourself.
Mhm.
also like the spiritual
Apologize.
thing, I like that, Simone, because I've incorporated where I write certain feelings or
Hmm.
emotions on bay leaves,
Yep. And you
spiritual
can. Yep.
people, and you can
Hmm.
burn them as well,
Yep.
or on a magnolia leaf, because that's the
Mhm.
mother tree. You
And
can
make
also
Right.
write stuff on that as well and burn those as
yeah,
well.
and make sure you get it away from you too. If you have
And
any
the reason I love the bay leaves is
get
because
it
they
away
also
from
have a
you.
protection.
Yep.
Mhm.
They have a
It's
protection
very
entity with
heavy.
them. Hmm.
Mhm.
You gonna answer that last one? I didn't see any more questions, so I was gonna give you that last one to answer.
yeah, so I have that question, and it was another question. So I'm gonna go back to that other question. I struggle with speaking up for myself. What are some ways I can make it a little easy for me? So you're in luck. I do create an amazing and abundance of workbooks. The cool
Yes.
thing is, if you are somebody who understands energy and chakras, it is something that I ultimately that helped me unpack things because each chakra represents different parts of your body. And it's not until
Hmm.
you learn about these things that you realize that maybe speaking up is hard for you too. Sometimes even speaking up might make your throat hurt, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
one thing I want to let you know is when you do not speak up for yourself, your inner child, it's very sad. So every time you speak up for
Hmm.
yourself, you make your inner child very happy because it's another form of protecting that child, right? If you saw
Hmm.
your childhood you walking down the street, how hard would you go to protect that child? Because me being me,
My
I go
life.
above and beyond to protect any type of child. So if I
Yep.
see a
Hmm.
child and you look like me and let it be me, and if you was able to physically see yourself, of course I'm gonna give you a hug. Yes, I want to talk to you. What's going on? Let's pick this up. Let's figure this out. Give me 1 second.
Mhm. That's true
Did
what
she?
you said.
Did she come back
Sore
again?
throat.
I told she in boss mode tonight, y'all.
You know
Usually
that's
she don't
how
pay us no mind, but she in boss mode tonight.
that's how it be. What was it about speaking up for yourself?
Yes.
speak the one about speaking up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta practice
Yes.
speaking up for yourself. You can't. I mean, because that I feel like when you don't speak up for yourself, you internalize stuff, and that's holding on to stuff. Like you
Right.
got to like.
And then
You
that
got to
creates
throw that
resentment.
stuff. Something's got to be
Yep.
thrown up out of you. You have to purge yourself from it because
Yep.
the more you keep on bottling it down, like I just feel like it's a continuation of whatever hurt you're holding on to because you're not allowing yourself to get it out. You know.
You know what I think
What?
also? A
Right.
lot of times people don't speak up for themselves because they don't want to be perceived as difficult. They don't
Yes.
want to be perceived as hurting someone's feelings. But then you walk away with the hurt
That was
feelings. See,
And
me growing
Do
up,
you want to be
I was
a
like,
door or do you want to be a doormat?
Yeah.
right.
Think
Exactly.
about
and
it. Do you want to be
also
the door or do you want to be the doormat?
Yep.
And also,
Exactly.
I think we talked about this offline also, and I was talking to a young lady earlier today about this. Not only that, in African American community, we have been taught again to shrink ourselves by
Yeah.
parents and
Yeah.
grandparents telling you, "Shut up, stop crying." Don't
Yep.
and you're expressing, "I'm hurt. This didn't make me feel good." Like she said, like Simone said from the gate, we're little humans, and unfortunately we were taught to be quiet, don't you say nothing, suck up them tears, ain't nothing wrong with you, or that it's not okay to form an opinion or say, okay, this didn't make me feel good, this didn't make me this hurt me. And I think that has caused a lot of communication issues,
Definitely. Yeah.
because we weren't ushered into, hey, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to have an off day and be pissed off, or whatever the case may
Right.
be. So I think that's why a lot of us,
Or
even
even
as
let's
adults,
unpack why
we
you felt
struggle.
you were pissed.
Yeah.
You
And
know
I
what I
think
mean?
Right.
one of the
Yes, ma'am.
things that helped me was mirror talk. I talk to myself in the mirror all the time
Yep.
because I had a problem with speaking up for myself. I had a problem speaking in general just because I stumble over my words sometimes and I don't say words correctly. But I had to, do some mirror talk. Like, no, I am going to speak up for myself. My voice is strong. My voice needs to be heard. And so, though mirror talk is so powerful because you're looking at yourself in the mirror. Only you can see you. So I think it's so dope to speak up for yourself, honestly. Because
And like you said, like mirror talk, an amazing thing is you don't have to do anything special on a day that you are in your highest of highs. Record yourself talking to yourself like this, and
yes,
then on your days that you're lowest of lows, play
You
that back
play it.
and hear it. I don't care if
yes,
you gotta meditate it because it's your voice and it's how you feel about you. So whether you believe it in
yes.
this
Mhm.
moment or not, it's still there. So it's cognitively going to let you know.
I got two things
Um,
that I read. Tony, you said feeling as though your feelings are minimal. No, it's not necessarily that. One thing I could say, just because I know where you come from, and things are not delivered in a mean way, but you can't keep on beating a dead horse. You cannot
Right.
keep on beating yourself up in the
Yep.
same mental process. I'm not good enough, or
Right.
and people that love you, that really love you and want your healing, they're gonna speak up and be like, no, stop telling yourself that.
Right.
Deposit good things in yourself. You can't keep on. I feel like this. A lot of us get in the habit of, people will tell you, baby, no, it's okay to hurt, but you got to heal from it. It's okay to heal. They're giving you that go heal, but you regurgitate it to eat it
Sorry.
again. So you got to stop recycling those feelings. So no, it ain't minimalizing your feelings and your emotions. People really want to see your healing.
Right.
People want to see your healing.
also,
And like you said, ain't none of us perfect in delivering sometimes,
Yeah.
especially when you love somebody and you like,
It
babe,
gets mixed
you're
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
you're
Makes
stuck in this
you're
mindset, like,
passionate. Yeah.
get
Passion.
heal, get on, not necessarily get over it, but get over it, if you know what I'm saying.
It's like
Yeah.
get through it. You can get through it.
Get
Keep
through it,
pushing through.
And as far as my mama, me and my mother, we talk a lot, and she was saying the generational about the kids being raised with children seen and I heard. But
I was
again,
from that generation too.
but my thing is think about all the traumas that you've had to deal with because you was like that, and how you
Right.
probably unintentionally passed certain them traumas to us. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because you know me, I'm emotional and I always trying to express myself. And you used to always tell me I talk too damn much, But I'm like,
Yeah,
but
my
I
dad told
feel
me
this
that too.
way and I want you to hear it.
Mhm.
And, I feel like, that's, y'all have a lot of damage because you couldn't express your feelings.
Nope.
So you bottle stuff in, like, even kind of piggybacking, going back to what Simone was saying about her mom, and even reading Tony about, your mama not really hugging you and things like that, because y'all were taught, like you said again, to suppress so much. That trickle down, because my mother's not a real affectionate person either.
I tell y'all what, because of that issue, I think I've been doing this my whole life, because I've been trying to find understanding, because I've never been at peace since I've been a child. I've never been at peace. Do you know, I learned why, and I thought it was like the best thing in the world. That's why I keep telling everybody, a lot of this goes back to slavery. Do you know why Black women do not show their children love? It is because when the master would come into the slave quarters and watch your son or your daughter start maturing, they be saying, you got a mighty nice fine boy there. Got a nice boy. Oh no, not him. He ain't no good. He ain't no good. You don't want him. He weak. He don't listen. They would do so much to not be separated from their children, or their children taken from them. So it's so crazy, because I think I explained this to somebody not too long ago, when they were just like, why y'all don't seem like y'all love y'all kids? I said, yeah, if y'all only knew how much we love our kids, we would die for our children. But you can't show that, because it's ingrained in us. It's the DNA. It's ingrained in us from our parents, passing it down from their parents, their grandparents. Everything was just negative. Your kids talk too much, they this, they that. They were bad. Everything was bad. They don't, like, we talk about our kids, and the first thing out of our mouth, girl, my girl doing this, girl, my girl going doing this, and my girl going doing this. They didn't do that. They didn't do that, because it's, and they don't even know why they didn't do it. They don't even know why. But I read that, and there's a book that I suggest that everybody should go get, and that's the post-traumatic slave.
Yeah.
Yes. You should get that and read that, because it will break a whole lot of stuff down, and it incorporates into childhood traumas. But then she kind of put together and why our parents and grandparents do the things that they do, which contributed to a lot of our childhood traumas. And just to say, to mommy Cynthia, I get it. My father is the same. Children should be seen. I heard I'm 49, and my dad still talks to me like I'm 12. And gets mad at me when I buck up, because I'm just like, bruh, you told me all my life that I have to get the way you gotten. I done got part of the way. I'm 22 years behind you, but I done got part of the way. We can have a conversation now. You understand what I'm saying? And he just feels like when he doesn't agree with what I say, huh?
I be hyping her inner child up. He be talking to her like
she
she's tough.
does.
I'm like, girl, you gonna let talk to you like that?
That's being normal. I'm like,
and she like, oh, she starts off, and she like, oh, girl, you right. I'm like,
okay. Well, I'll be tapping in real quick.
And he don't like the fact that he feels that I'm being disrespectful by expressing my feelings. So, I'm very grateful for my kids, because we have so many conversations where we do. We don't. This is a thing that also came from our generation too. Our parents never shared their childhood. They never explained who they were, what they went through. That wasn't our business. And unfortunately, it was, because it helped you understand who your parents are.
Yes. That's what has helped me heal, because I understand where my parents were coming from. I understood why my mom was the way she is with me or with her kids, because she shared little things. And I was like, okay, I get it now. I get why you would tell me certain things.
And what you're saying, that I feel like that's something that we all need to do. Sometimes you got to step back and understand what your parents went through to kind of get an understanding. That also helps. That also promotes healing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we get so big. Well, you don't love me. You don't hear me. Yeah, you know what I mean? And
because before you was my mom, you was somebody else's child.
Exactly.
You was somebody's baby.
You was a whole person.
Right. Yes. And it didn't click. It's so funny. It didn't click to me until the other day. I was like, yo, she's not just my mom. She's her whole person.
We talked about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, y'all. We talk a lot about this stuff.
I hold on to that so much that I make sure my child understands, girl, I'm your mama, not your maid. I break it all down every time.
Yeah.
I dress and live my best life, because when I'm 90 and I can't move, I don't ever want you. No. That's what your mama was doing. Then when you was 5 and I was gone for a week, you didn't understand why, girl. That's where I was, living my best life. I want to be able to retire when my child goes, what do you like to do? Move, girl. I like to travel.
Okay.
I don't want to be 50 or 55 going, well, I don't really know what I like to do with my life. I don't want to do that.
That was me at
I don't want to
45.
do that. Mm-mm.
I'm at that space
Yep.
now. I'm
I
finding
know
it. Being
right
an
now it's
empty
at least
nester.
five
I'm
different.
a nester.
I'm
I'm trying to
Yep.
figure it
brain
out.
outside right now that I like to
Mhm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need as women, but that's another story for another day. So
Yeah.
we'll get to
Yeah.
that. But I don't know if we already answered this question. I see one in here. Is it
But
okay to feel alone for being told you are strong? What I could really ultimately end it off with is if you express your feelings and the person you are expressing it to feels like the way you express your feelings, not define you expressing your feelings as a disrespectful act. There is already somebody who is committed to not understanding or respecting your feelings in the very first place. So that's a person who is committed to misunderstanding you every step of the way. And
mm-hmm.
now it's up to you to sit back and go, are you willing to constantly go back and forth with someone who is committed to misunderstanding you? Because at no point are they showing you the compromise and the give and take of, I want this to work. So how do I avoid making you feel like this? Because one thing we have to understand about feelings is they are everything and nothing at the same time. A
Mm-hmm.
feeling can make somebody not make millions with someone else when even though that same feeling I can ignore and make millions. So the reality comes to it is it's nothing, but it's everything at the same time. It's everything when it's someone that you genuinely care about. And if you care about this person, they would find your feelings to be everything, especially if they are within reason. So I definitely wanted to answer that. But I want to wrap this up because I feel like I have been stopped and going, y'all, and it is not killed. But like I said in my introduction, the great thing is I am a life coach and I do offer methods that you can use to work through your traumas. And one of my ultimate favorites, especially speaking to the person with the question about speaking on their throat chakra, is my favorites to work through traumas is journaling and therapeutic art. And I do teach classes as well as give me 1 second, stop and going.
Y'all, one thing while she's with her little one, we've been on her since we last spoke about her coming on the show. She has these awesome workbooks
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
trying to motivate her to get to printing and
Mm-hmm.
selling
Yeah.
them or do whatever she do because she showed us
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
amazing in like
Mm-hmm.
healing. And I mean they are like as soon as she say they're on sale, I am buying
Getting them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
because
here's the
they're
trick. Ready
amazing.
for it?
Listen, on the low,
Here's the trick.
we barter in here because she helps me out with my business. So that's how I get stuff. I'll be like, well, I'm gonna take that.
Hey,
Okay.
Yeah. So I was about to say, so now just to really stumble upon what you were saying, I do have workbooks and I'm constantly when I learn something new or I go and do some more work and I go, hey, this is some work someone can deal with. I even
Mm-hmm.
upgrade and I might even start changing the volumes to where you might buy one today and maybe 3 months down the line it might be volume two because I have to add that there's more additions to the book. But all of my workbooks you can purchase. So my method mostly is journaling and therapeutic art. I realize that that helps with a lot of childhood trauma and it makes it easier with unpacking everything else. And so, like I was saying, I do teach classes. I think it's 3 times out of a year that I actually do live coaching classes, which requires you to log in on a Zoom schedule and I speak to you and we collectively as a class go over healing and how to work through it. The other one I also offer is when I am not teaching those live coach led classes, I do have self-paced courses. So if you're somebody who want to take your time and don't want to be forced to stay on a schedule and a speed, you can do that. But I will also offer that option for you to add on coaching. So where I can do a coaching check-in with you to where maybe a step along the way you're enjoying this, but you want a little bit more insight. And so I can provide that insight with you. Another thing I do is I do provide solo coaching packages, but also group coaching. So one of my favorite group coaching options that I've just put together is one for caretakers, like who are parents. So if you need a space to want to feel seen or learn tips to work on changing how you parent and things like that, I definitely have a group coaching page for that. Listen, it's about to go down. Give me 1 second.
What was her? Oh, okay. Well, while she's doing that, well, because I don't know when she's gonna pop
Zelly's
back
really in
in.
rare form, boy. I swear.
She's like, I got some stuff I want to say.
That's
She
okay.
got
Bring her.
strawberry with her.
Yes, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right? And that's because after this, I made a promise to somebody. So, so for like caretakers, as you say, how do you make your little person feel seen? So maybe you want to work on healing your childhood traumas while raising your baby. So I do offer a group coaching for caretakers. And specifically with that one, I do offer a sliding scale. So I do not make it you have to pay this amount. I make it a sliding scale because I feel like as a caretaker or a parent, everyone should have access to this. And it shouldn't be if you don't have this certain amount of money, you can't learn this skill. I think everyone needs to learn this skill no matter your economic level. And if I am out of your reach for coaching, like I said, I offer my workbooks and book sets that you can purchase. My workbooks actually just create a starting point to unpack and regrow yourself while you're on your journey of healing, whether it's healing by yourself or healing with a partner. So I do have a workbook set that you can purchase where you and your partner, maybe you're in a space where y'all maybe do want to be with each other, but y'all can't figure out exactly what's the issues y'all are having. So I do have an actual workbook and an activity book where the workbook has y'all sit down and really unpack what you think a relationship is. And by the time you end the book, y'all should have a shared relationship vision. So where y'all know if this is where we see
Mm,
ourselves with each other, then these are the steps we need to take so that we are reading basically the same page of the same book. And then of
I
course the
need that.
activity book with it, y'all are basically rekindling the intimacy of after working through and breaking it down. But all of these books and these workbooks are on sale. They are all printed in order because I make them all from start to finish, from the pictures to the
Mm-hmm.
activities to the check-in. So because I am the person who have all of these books, you purchase, it gets printed, it gets shipped straight out to you, no qualms, no issues. Another one that I love is I offer Zen gardens and Zen sets. So if you purchase a Zen set from me, especially because of my ladies with our spiritual view, if you're the type of person where you need to force yourself to sit down to be mindful and things like that, I do sell a Zen garden. And now with this garden, you also get the sand in your figurines, but you can sit down, play some meditative music, and just draw in the sand and allow yourself to just let things go.
It's
Also,
like a
if you want, I
personal grounding
offer a
experience.
coloring book with it. Yeah, I create all of that because like you said, it's all spiritual, right? And so a lot of us are in
Hmm.
spiritual turmoil because of the things we've been traumatized by. And because of it, we don't know how to sit down. Or maybe sitting down and just coloring with our thoughts is a lot. So with just the Zen coloring book, say you don't want the garden, maybe you're not ready to sit for long periods of time, but you can purchase a coloring book. And in the coloring book, each page is a mandala. And as you're focusing on coloring the mandalas, it is a Zen quote. So the whole time you can focus on that quote and realize, like, wow, this is something I can actively work on. I also have gratitude journals, which are for like 11 weeks. And for the week, you just work on being grateful. And then you get to the cool part
Hmm.
about these workbooks. After you complete one, you can buy one every quarter of a year, maybe 4 times a year, and then just look back on them and just watch and track your growth. It gives you the
Hmm.
time and the space to sit back and go, look how
Love
far
that.
I came. I went from
Hmm.
not being able to open up to express myself where now I can fully express how I feel. And of course, I have a full on collection workbook that has everything. And then, of course, I have, if you only want to work on specific sections like your self talk, I have my affirmations book, or you can buy the entire book, which really just depicts the coaching experience. So if you were to purchase the book, um, and you wanted to get a coaching experience on how to work through the book, that is something that can be done as well. And I even have different meditations that you can download on my website. So if you enjoy what you heard tonight, you can easily find me on Instagram at Intimate with Sunflower Jones, all spelled correctly, all one word. Or if you're interested in anything that I have to offer, because I also I'm also a mindfulness and meditation coach. So outside of just being a life coach, I work on a lot of the spiritual side and self care side as well. And with that, you can also just email me at intimate with sunflower jones at gmail. and you can get a free 30-minute consultation, and we can just go over some things, and I can offer you something that you can use that can just start your journey until you were ready. And I'm trying to think of one more thing. Oh, another thing is I do offer memberships. So I do have two amazing memberships, such as the 21 day challenges, and that's where we just actively work on different challenges where there's 21 days because it takes 21 days to create a new habit, 90 days to maintain it. So that is the
Okay.
greatest thing about that. And my other one
You
is my
said
Hey There Self Care
intimate with
membership.
Sunflower
And
Jones.
Hold on, let me
yep,
let me.
it's
I'm gonna put that in.
Sunflower
I'm gonna
Challenge.
put that in.
Okay.
Okay.
And the cool part about my memberships are is once a month you can log on and you can have one of the few things either I will show you how to mindfully eat. We can sit down and we can discuss something. I can basically speak to you as I make a recipe and you can see it. I upload recipes for self care. I upload items you can use for self care. I make videos on how to self care. I also share products that I use to self care, which is funny because one of Omar's Herbals is on one of those videos that I've done self care. Also, sometimes my memberships, depending on whose products I use in the self care, sometimes my members can get a discount or get a discount code where they may be able to purchase said item at that price. But also, when you're a member, you'll know when it's allowed. And I also do newsletters too. So even if maybe you just want to be on the newsletter, and I also used to do a podcast, so you can also find those because I don't do that no more. I was spreading myself thin, but I got 2
I feel
seasons,
you. I don't do
so
that
you
no
can go
more.
ahead and catch up. You get what I'm saying? And but yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
Yes, y'all better tap in.
Definitely.
Y'all better
Definitely.
tap
All right,
in.
we get it.
She will definitely
Yeah,
help you
please
get that
sponsor.
throat.
I'm putting it in the chat.
Let me
So
just get to this.
I want to thank you because I know you need to go take care of little mama. So thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for all the
No,
information that you supplied.
Yeah,
I definitely learned some stuff and definitely
very
got
good,
some
very
tools that I can work with. And I'm definitely gonna be signing up and buying some of them workbooks for
good. Okay.
sure.
The workbook, yes.
Yeah, I definitely when I
and
seen
then
it, I was like, oh, I
like
want these.
honestly, I be outdoing myself because like I had to create a full on binder of all of it because sometimes I'll look and go, oh, maybe want to read word that. And so I keep a paper copy down to rearrange
Mm-hmm.
and change how I do things. And it wasn't until about last week when I printed everything that I've made off and was like, girl, writing this, you almost wanted to answer some of these questions and get the journaling. And I said, oh, girl, that means it must be good. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, all right, boom. I have some that are actual booklets, and then I have some that are actual books. So of
I'm sorry.
course,
Tell
like
me your website again. I just want to put it into the chat.
so my website, if you wanted to just visit my website, I am intimate with Sunflower Jones webnode.com.
Okay.
If you are on social media, you can find me on Instagram. That is my go-to because that has everything connected. It has my Twitter, my Facebook
Mm-hmm.
page. I also have a private Facebook group that you can join as well. Um, Also, in my link tree, it has everything from other shows that I've been on and done interviews. You also have access to just see a whole bunch of things and get to know me and more about me.
Get
Um,
all up in the
and
business. Get all up in there.
Because I be in her business.
Yeah,
Me
me
too.
too.
is it my business?
Since she been born.
I be.
But yeah, if you want to, I'm always reachable. You can always reach me on Instagram. I answer everything. If
She does.
like I said, I do. I do
I'm
30
just gonna
minute
give a disclaimer
consultations.
for her. I'm gonna give a disclaimer for her. Sunflower Jones strongly participates in self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do.
Strongly.
No.
Because she will come
Yeah.
home, she will come home from work and take a nap. So if you
Okay.
got a stint where you don't hear from her in 2 to 3 hours, she's napping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better for you because when she wake up, she's on go.
She
So
ready.
yeah, yeah.
Self
But
care
also
is
in the same
important.
token, though, I'm pretty good at scheduling things. So 9 times out of 10, I know the hours I like to take naps.
So
So
you
ahead of
sound like
time, if we're
nothing.
doing consultations, it's booked and baby. We're,
Do you mind
we're
if I?
yes,
You mind if I
we're here.
disclose? Do you mind if I disclose what you were doing before we?
Oh no, sure. The more
Okay,
conversations,
so
the better. Y'all need to give me some
we
reviews, y'all.
we showed up. We showed up a little late because I had a little technical difficulty because we've been going so long. I forgot what I was doing, y'all. But anyway, so literally we signed in and Sunflower Jones was napping. She came home from work early and took a nap and set her alarm and was up at 6:25 and ready to roll. I was looking like, "Are you there?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm out here, right?" I was like, "Oh, geez, all right."
She ready.
Yeah, I'm glad
And the
to. I
presentation she
need
just
that.
gave, she was ready. So
Those
You know
naps
how
be
many nights
powerful.
I didn't sleep? Oh, I'm taking naps.
yeah,
I ain't
so
mad
I
at
would
you.
take naps.
Love
so
being that.
now we actually went over our 2 hour that we like to try to keep, but it was
We
some really
did.
good
It was a
information.
beautiful
Yeah.
Yeah, we needed this
situation.
information shared,
Mhm.
and I think, I mean, we still had we had a pretty amount. I'm gonna fuss at my audience tonight. We were trying to organize these questions, okay, for y'all, because when we did the first two shows, y'all was killing us. We was trying to keep up with y'all on the questions.
Mhm.
So we asked y'all to just hold out to the end for us to get some questions. And y'all, I mean, y'all gave us some good ones. But what happened to the rain pour y'all had? Just the last show, we were ready to go with the info.
Listen.
Okay.
They
That's all
fight.
right.
They
We'll get
taking
y'all
it
next
Well,
in.
you
show.
gotta
They
give them
taking in
some.
the
They done tuned
information.
in, so they listening.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they waiting on what other questions we could let marinate. It's all
Uh
right.
huh.
If y'all got more
And if
questions,
you have any
email them.
questions, there you go. You can email
Email
any
them
one of us.
directly.
If we can't answer them, we'll refer it to the other party who can, and
Because
they
y'all
will
know
get
I
back
will.
to you. It is when we do our shows, it is never the end. When we say we off that show, that's not a gone show. You can always tell us on this date, this show, I have questions about what can I do?
Yes.
How can I
Mhm.
do? You can reach out to any one of us
Mm-hmm.
and we will, because let me just let y'all know. Sarita and Aisha and myself, we talk almost every day. If it's not video chat, it's messenger, but we talk almost every day, which is
Mhm.
hilarious because when we get on here, it seems like we just talking for the first time, but we not.
We
We was on
not.
the phone last night till almost 2 a.m. So you know, we
Yeah.
gotta tell each other to go to sleep, you know?
Right.
And we are always on the phone and we're always talking about growth,
Mhm.
spirituality, better ways. And we love the fact that we created our own little safe space for each other. We
Yeah.
love that.
Definitely.
So I mean, you know, we want that same thing for everybody else because we said we've been missing it so long. So
Yeah.
if you need to reach us, trust me, we are serious when we say it is a safe space.
Safe.
You understand what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It is a safe space. You can, if you don't feel comfortable when we post up on the Facebook page in the Facebook group, you can always DM and somebody will get on it. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? They definitely will. But where we at now? Because you know we tried to
Oh,
organize this a little bit for you
uh,
guys.
pretty much. At this point, we can. Miss Sunflower Jones did a beautiful,
It's a beautiful
beautiful
job.
job. So
Mhm.
if you wanna leave out, and take care of your business. Definitely. We supposed to go back into like share like things that we do to help with our uh
Childhood trauma.
what things that we do to help heal our childhood traumas.
Mhm.
Right.
Just so you know, just because I step off, don't mean I'm not gonna watch. I'm gonna go ahead and tune in right after I get
Okay.
this.
We love it. Thank you for real. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank
No
you.
Thank you
Thank
problem.
so
you.
I
much.
greatly appreciate it that y'all had me on, and it was. I would love to come back. This is amazing,
We will
Yes.
especially because
actually,
y'all put me in
I
that
think it's
space
gonna
where
be a
I had to
must.
like break
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
down.
I
Because
feel
we can
like it's
talk
a
on the whole
must.
spiritual, but you pretty much put it in a whole
Oh,
context for it.
Yeah.
yeah.
So like we talk and people, because you know we talk and we pretty much are on layman's terms with everything, but you actually give a full presentation that breaks it
Mhm.
down. I was actually shocked because we have these conversations, but
Right.
I you know I've never seen her in action
I'm an
because she,
open
you know, when she
watcher. I'm
she
an open
goes into her room and locks her door. This is why y'all see Zell, because normally when we kind of schedule opposites, so when she does sessions or meditations, I have Zell. So
Mhm.
this is the first. So Zell's like, okay, wait a minute, everybody's doors are closed here. What's going on? So so that's why she's like pushing her way through. But I'm actually very proud. I'm very proud of. I've never seen
Yes.
Give it. I mean, I've watched her go through everything and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I want to do this. And just so, you know, if you don't mind me sharing, Simone has turned her own trauma into what you see right now. So
Yes.
some people talk about things and we laugh and joke about how we are serious about what we do and we are honest about who we are and how we traveling. And it's not perfect, it's not clean, but I watched this child, well, my child, because she grown. Let me cut that out. Okay. But I watched my daughter turn tragedy into I'm just amazed at a whole business.
Yes.
She was like, I'm not going to sit in this. I'm not going to suffer in this. I'm going to grow. I'm going to be better. I'm going to help other people do this.
And she's a prime example of literally, like you said, not allowing trauma to write her life.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's rewriting, like, no, this, I might have been presented this, but I'm going to go this way. This is what I, you know, and I commend you, sister. I commend you.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Definitely inspirational.
Definitely.
Now, that means a lot, cuz.
Absolutely.
No,
you can cash at me later for that.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, girl, I just want to lay down. I'm tired.
Yes.
Yes.
So I guess we could share. Okay, I don't know who.
So we have Aisha. Aisha has. Okay, so let me let you guys know that my two sisters here, not only are they spiritual sisters of mine, they also talented readers. All right.
Don't do me.
I'm actually. Are y'all serious right now? Are y'all serious right now? I'm gonna be me, but I'm scared because you know we keep it 100.
While they do that, I'm gonna go ahead and watch that.
Look.
I heard Russell Simmons say, "Thank you for coming out. Good night. God bless." I'm gonna go ahead and watch that.
Thank you, sis. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To watch this next segment. I'm gonna put my little human to bed.
All right.
Well, we got before we do our course, we got to share what we do to help heal our traumas.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll go.
Am I going first?
I don't care. I don't care.
Oh, I walk away now. I try to walk away, and it's funny because I'm not clean about it. So I get triggered more or less by outside people now because I don't really put myself in the space to get triggered by family anymore. But what I do, which I think is also a way that I deal with it, I try to explain it to people because the last time I got triggered, it was my birthday, the day before my birthday last year. Me and my dad were having a really deep discussion. And of course, that whole children are seen and not heard situation, you could like that came about. And he did not like what I was saying. So he started yelling and I asked him not to. I told him I didn't want to fight. I tried to verbalize that first. And he just was so caught up in him that he continued. But my initial, because we've had blowups like that before, and years ago, I was ready to fight. This time, I literally was just like, I don't want to fight. I really don't want to take it to this extreme. I have to get out of here, right? And at first, I was like, pretty much, I actually converted into a child. I literally was begging for the yelling to stop. And I went into such a bad anxiety attack. It was really, really bad that I couldn't sleep. I left the next day, but that was me removing myself. But I can't put myself in the space to be in that to feel that way anymore. So what I tend to do now is I'll try to verbalize it to you. And if you just refuse to not see or hear me, I remove myself. So it's not in a cold manner. It used to be cold where I would just cut you straight off. You just didn't matter anymore. It's not in that because I mean, me and my dad have been in the same space since then. And I love my dad, and I understand he has childhood traumas and things of that nature, but I can't be responsible any longer for his childhood traumas. Like, he has to fix that. He has to let that go. And until he does that, he's not healthy for me. So I can still love my dad. I can see him in mutual settings, but it's really hard for me to actually go and spend time in his home. So that's what I don't do. And when it comes to strangers that do things like that, where they trigger me and raise their voice, now I'm gonna have y'all laughing because we talk about energy, aura, and frequency, right? Your girl got big aura, big energy, and it's crazy because a lot of times people see me standing up and don't really raise their voice. It's in certain situations, like I work a front desk at the hospital, and that's where I noticed that a lot of people come off and they just get very aggressive, and I have that blank look, like whatever. And because I'm not giving the reaction, they'll start raising their voice. It'll be like you can see the triggering where they're trying to push me and poke me, and I'm just like whatever.
That
And then
reaction.
right, they raise their voice, and I stand up and be like, nope, not today. And I really literally just be like, nope, not today, and walk away. I'll go get my manager and be like, you know what, this is for you. That's what the fucks are. That's you. I'm not entertaining that because I realize that people tend to unleash in places of people, in workspaces of people that are service workers.
Yeah.
So technically, I am a service worker because I deal with public. And trust me, people, I have that look. Remember, we always joke about my RBF, right? My resting bitch face. And a lot of times they think I'm gonna have an attitude right off the rip because I have no smile. And I will smile if there's a reason to smile. I'm not Ronald McDonald. That's just not what I get paid for to do that, But I will genuinely, you dress me, I dress you. I will genuinely make your day. There's tons of patients that will tell you all walks of life they look for me when I'm not in the building. So for people to just automatically feel that they can attack a person because I'm doing a service job, I'm not a servant, So when people come through, this is how we say other people's issues spill over to others. And they'll come in, and because they can't get that reaction out of me, they'll push. And a lot of times, some of them I can actually say to, like, you don't have to speak to me that way. And they'll bring it back. But then there's some that takes me saying you don't have to speak to me that way as a disrespectful act because I am in a service position. And those are the ones I leave standing there because there's nothing in my service contract that says I have to be verbally abused by anyone.
That's facts.
Right.
So I will get up and walk away. And that's pretty much what I do now. I do not allow myself to be in the space of anything that is going to disturb my peace.
Yes.
And I don't care who it is or what it is. You understand? I mean, retrograde, we talked about this the other day. We was doing really good. Then retrograde came in on the last of the day.
Bow, 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 bow.
Baby.
We was all on the phone like, Lord, good.
Yeah.
I think my eyes are swollen.
Yeah, we got
Right.
Baby.
Yeah, my head knotted up.
Okay. You're looking like Martin for time he hit me and her. It's like, what happened? So just to let the audience know too, like, this is what we mean when we say, like, even though we say our spiritual view, because there's days where you on. You could go. I got this. We was talking peace and light and love all this month. Retrograde's coming in. This is what we gonna do. This is how we gonna work it out. We don't know why people scared. It's a good thing. And then that last few days of retrograde,
the last 3 days,
they attacked. We got attacked, y'all.
I will never use the words. I would never say. I would never say the retrogrades don't affect. I would lies.
Yeah.
Lies.
Sheesh.
Yeah. What did I say? I said, oh, I'm not scared. I just manifested what I want to focus on in myself.
Right.
Yeah. And then I was triggered.
And I was tiptoeing like I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So what do you do, Sarita, what do you do to help, heal your traumas?
Like I said, I do a lot of mirror talk. I like to look at me in the mirror because, again, like I said, growing up, I had that complex about my looks and my hair and all this other stuff. So that's what I do. I do a lot of mirror talk, and I do a lot of rituals too. Like, I like fire. I'll burn something up in a minute. But lately what I have done, I've gotten a picture of younger me, and I wrote in a letter to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to my younger self, like, it's okay. You are allowed to speak your mind. You are safe in this. You are in a safe place. You're allowed to do whatever it is that you want to do. You are allowed to be a free spirit. And I do a lot of self-talk. I write to myself a lot. I talk to myself. People might think I'm crazy, but I talk to myself all the time. Because sometimes I got to talk about the ledge. Like, I got to talk myself off the ledge. And like, the other day, I was very much triggered. We talked about this. I was very much triggered about by something, and I had to realize it's okay to let certain people go.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I can't stand when people be like, well, communication, you should communicate before you ghost somebody or you leave. No, if I've communicated with you 5,000 times, I'm not doing it anymore.
Nope.
So that's what I do. I allow myself to walk away from certain energies that don't need to be around me or I don't need to partake in. I think self-care is important too.
Yeah.
Self-care is so important. You need to take care of yourself. You can't always be there for other people. You have to be there for yourself. Always put yourself first. No matter if it's friends, family, it doesn't matter. If you need to cut someone off, cut them off. It is okay. They will be okay without you because they was okay when they were trying to trigger you. So
that's right.
All of that.
That's right.
So that's what I do. I like to do a lot of mirror talk. And and as far as like childhood trauma with, my parents, I just had to realize that they were kids before they was my mom and dad. They were someone's child. I had to really, that was one of my, part of my journey is really forgiving and understanding where they were coming from as parents. They did not, did not know how to be that parent for me.
Right.
Because they didn't have their parents, but it's a healing journey. We're all in this together. So
yes,
I think
tell you something. You know what I learned? What I learned in the aspects of letting my kids understand. I remember when my daughter was 19 and I said to her, I said, how old are you? She said 19. I said, I was pregnant with you. I had you.
Yeah, that's
and I just give them points. Like one day she was fighting with Zell. She was 26 and she was fighting with Zell. Zell was like 18 months at the time. And she was just fighting with Zell. Zell just giving up her time. She was like, Mom, you had 2 kids at this age? I was like, yeah.
That's something I had to understand. By the time my mom, she already had me at this age. She had already 2 other boys. So I had to understand where she was coming from. Even my dad, because me and my dad have a lot of unhealed, like a lot of things we haven't talked about. And for me to understand him, I had to understand where he came from as a child, how he grew up as a child. So we've been talking a lot more about his childhood. So I'm like, dang, I kind of understand why you couldn't be fully there for me as a father. So I had to I didn't forget now. I ain't gonna forget, but I will forgive you. I will, because I'll let it go. But he's my nerves. He's still a bald headed skeleton.
I mean, with me, I'm an artsy type person. So to me, I tap into like my artsy side. That's healing for me. Whether it's dance around, I sing, I write,
girl, you be having me cracking up.
Anything creative, hair, makeup, whatever, anything creative. And then also, like you said, I am learning because by nature, I am a fixer. I want to heal and fix everybody and everything. I have learned, though, that you can't heal everybody. They got to want to heal themselves first. So learning that, I've had to also learn to step back and really claim my peace, and, put distance in drama because I'm in a different space. Like, I don't want the drama. I don't want the arguing. I don't want that. So, that's what I do to work on my, and I like watching cartoons still.
Oh, me too. And music and let me tell you something.
Oh, I love that. Music and cartoons together.
But listen, I don't care what nobody say. I'll put SpongeBob on in a minute. I'll watch Shrek in a minute. If I'm feeling some type of way that day, Shrek is my go-to movie. That is my if I need that is my go-to. So
it be that way. It be that way.
Talk about me if you want to, but I'm happy over here with my cartoons and my popcorn. Just or my dry cereal because I be with it.
And you know what's so funny? Because what did I tell y'all the other day? I said, you know why Zelly loves grandma? That's why she loved grandma. Had a whole big old box of Fruity Pebbles, not Fruity Pebbles, Fruit Loops, and we sit here watching Disney.
Listen, I watch a Disney movie. I don't care.
Pretty much everything that I couldn't do as a kid as an adult. Everything that they I couldn't do as a kid, as an adult, I do it, and that's just my way of just going nah. Tell me
Right.
now. Tell me no now.
Yes.
Now you guys wanted to share. Um,
Dang, I
you
guess
know,
I'm first, huh?
you know what we didn't we never discussed what our next show was gonna be.
Oh, we didn't.
I mean, gotta tune in and see what
Yeah,
it's gonna
right.
Yep.
be.
It's the
Surprise.
mystery show this time, y'all. It's the mystery show.
Yeah, gotta
No.
tune in. It's gonna be
But
something
before
popping, something
that's
good.
right, something.
Surprise.
All right. So
Yes.
we're gonna what time where we at now? Because we was trying to say this
Uh
show was really, really good.
oh,
We at
well, I mean, we had,
2:13.
yeah, so okay. So I guess now we could go ahead and do the our share our cards like we said last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shuffling as you were
Right.
talking.
Well, before you
So
know what, before you guys do that, I'm gonna just switch it around a little bit because I think we should end with you guys,
okay.
because we don't have a new show to introduce. But I want everybody that's watching right now. I started. Well, we all know I do teas, and we all just remember we discussed what we were going to focus on primarily going forward because we really weren't happy with what we were doing just to please other people and other people's requests. So I decided to go headfirst back into my teas again with of course, my hair oil, my face oil, and that. But I decided to actually do a line. So it's gonna be. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? Am I? Can you see? Here we go.
Yep. Yep.
Omar's Herbals Brews and Blends. Right. So this is my information card. This will be accompanying every order. So to tell you what the benefits of the herb is, what the brew or the blend. It'll tell you how to use it and the ingredients and what it's for. Okay. Don't be in my inbox asking me no crazy questions because it's all right here. Okay, guys. All right. Because that's a button. Okay.
That's
So
true.
I
Not a
decided what I'm going to
trigger.
do. I'm going to share because most people, they're scared of herb teas and things like that, right? So I decided to repackage. So instead of the envelopes and things like that, I'm going to do, this is a 12-ounce jar. So I'm going to do, this is the one that most of my people, my customers, I don't like to say customers, my clients love. This is a mix of peppermint, spearmint, and red raspberry leaf, which is very, very beneficial, but the flavoring is really, really good because the mint and the spearmint is primary. You don't really taste the red raspberry leaf. But what is so good about this is I'm going to share. So before our next show, I want everyone to send your addresses, PO boxes to Omar's Herbals at yahoo.com. All right. That's all I'm asking you to do. There's no other conversation necessary. You will get a free sampler. It'll be like tea bag form sampler to try this tea. So what I'm gonna do after every show is I'm gonna offer up a free tea bag offer, okay? Because I want y'all to try them because I don't want to, people I know are leery because they don't understand herbs. We do. So I'm gonna give y'all baby steps on the herbs, okay? And as of midnight tonight, my site will be open and the brews will be listed in size order and so forth like that. I didn't have my labeling yet because I'm still working on those and I've been sick all week. So, and I'm here because of one of my brews because my ladies will tell you they spoke to me 2 days ago and I sounded like trash.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the email address in the. I'm gonna pin it so you guys can write it down. Send me your email. Send me your addresses and your proper names, and I will ship it out to you guys. Probably most likely by this week. All right, so you can try. You can either try it during the show, or I would prefer you try it before our next show, and you can give me some feedback on that as well. All right. And
Yeah.
I might just start sending them out, just willy-nilly from that point on for y'all to try new samples.
You better tap in.
Okay?
Tap.
All right. So, all right, my ladies, you guys can take it from there.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Are you sure? This face.
Y'all starting to get, look, what did she do?
Okay. Because I'm still shy because of I don't.
Yeah.
I am a oracle card reader.
Mm-hmm.
I give like wisdom and guidance and things like that. And I'm not gonna say that, well, I'm shy still in my gift, but I am gonna do what I'm supposed to do, what I'm called to do. So as y'all know, I'm the moon lady.
Yes.
So the deck that I have is Moonology Oracle cards. And the card that can you see?
Let's see. Mm-hmm. Put it
Okay,
back.
so
There you go.
okay, so the card that I picked was balance, spirituality, and practicality, which is crazy, right? Okay, and this is a full moon in Pisces, and basically it asks, have you been so head in the clouds that you've lost touch with reality? If so, take this card as a sign that you need to pay attention and make a concerted effort to move forward towards your goals. The more practical steps you take, the better. It's time to find an inner balance between your responsibilities and your dreams. Meditate on your question, and the solutions to your issues may now come through very clearly. Uh-oh. Okay, sorry. If you're in a tricky situation because you've been acting the martyr, this card will be a message from the cosmos to drop the act for everyone's sake. And basically, the tune with the moon is meditate every day and see what comes to you. Answers will come. Okay. Also, additional meanings for the card is you're in a super romantic but not super realistic state. Follow your intuition; it won't let you down. At worst, this card can herald the end of a dream. The person you're inquiring about is a soulmate.
Excuse me.
Um, Also, avoid substance abuse. The teacher's card, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So the full moon in Pisces symbolically marks endings. When the moon is full in Pisces, and whenever you pull this card, it is a time to dive deep into your emotions. Practicality is the odds with the numerous Piscean energies that have no boundaries. So feel your way now. Psychic ability is heightened when the full moon in Pisces. Uh, when the full moon is in Pisces, and soulmates now connect. It's also a time to send out your dreams to the universe, releasing fears. So whatever, like I tell people, whatever message you heard that you can relate to, whatever message that was for you, you will receive it. If it doesn't, then it wasn't your message this time. So again,
Mhm.
this was the balance, spirituality, and practicality.
Mm,
Okay. I
I
like
okay.
know
that.
that one was pretty deep.
Yeah, that's so funny that card came that because the card I got, this is from my herbal healing deck, and this is Moonflower Death. Can you see it? This is Death and Rebirth.
Was y'all talking before y'all got on the phone with me?
You
No,
see me just shuffle my
I
cards.
just, and then, when we first got, I had the card popped out. It was inner child, but I just
Right.
did it again while you guys were talking, and this is what popped out: Moonflower, Death, and Rebirth. So
Avi.
when people see this card, they when they see death, they're thinking, "Oh God, no! This is the death to your old self. It's okay
Right.
to rebirth your new self. You can rebirth yourself every day. You can become a new you every single day. It's okay to let go of the old you, because some of us hold on to our old self because we're afraid of new things. So be
Mm-hmm.
open minded. Be open to growing. Be open. Do something new. Every day, try something new. Every day, do something that you did not do yesterday. Whatever you're afraid of, do that. I was afraid of speaking. So guess what I
Mm-hmm.
did every day? I would get on live on Instagram. I'm doing this every day. I started speaking because that's one of my fears, is speaking in public or just speaking in general. Because sometimes like I said, I say things wrong, or sometimes I come off very strong and passionate and people think I'm being mean or rude.
Right.
So Work on something new every day. That's what I'm getting. Work on something new every day and say goodbye to your old self. Your old self doesn't want to be here no more. Your new self is crying out for you. So,
Wow.
Moonflower. And I know people are asking questions about my readings. Right now, I am booked until next month, I think. I got to look at my calendar. But what I'm going to do for everyone that's in this group or in our Facebook group, I'm going to create a code that you guys are, it's only going to be, it'll be like $20 readings, 3-card pull. So it'll be $20, 3-card pull, and it'll be general, and there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna create a code that'll come up soon. So yeah, or you can just hit me up if you were in this live. You can hit me up at, hey, I was in this live. Keyword, I was in this live. So you gotta use those words. Keyword, I was in the live. So
I was in the live.
I was in the live. So yes, don't be afraid of becoming the new you. That's it. Okay.
Wait, what you want me to put? You want me to post there?
Huh?
Want me to put? What you want me to post up there for you?
And I think the only thing I have is I know on our last live I told y'all that I was going to launch the spiritual baths. They are available.
Yes.
I have the cleanse and protection bath. I have the purifying bath, and then I have the sweet intentions bath. So those are available on my website as well.
Yes. Get into
What's your website, Aisha?
www.goddessmoondipswithaz.com.
with the Z.
With a Z. And I'm still, like I said, I'm still the baby and I'm still shy. So I ain't doing no card readings yet. But
she said, I ain't doing no card. Don't
not
That's
yet.
right. You can practice on me.
But I mean, but obviously anybody want to reach, you know, hey, I do 1 card or 3-card pulls right now. So,
right.
You know, I got you.
Well, then you want me to put your IG up, Rita?
Yeah, you can put my IG up. Yeah, I gotta look at my calendar because I'm going on a slight vacation next week from readings and stuff.
Yes, gotcha.
Okay.
So look, so you can practice on me, Aisha. I was sitting here talking to you. I didn't realize that. Remember, I told you I was struggling today. It took me all day just to wash and retwist my hair. And I'm sitting here looking at my hair right now, and I'm like, what is that in my head?
What?
Is it still a clip?
Nah, it's the tiger eye bead sitting right on my crown. Right on my crown. I said, isn't this something?
All right.
All right, guys. So we're going to get off from talking to you guys because we're going to get on to talk to each other. So I'm sorry. Y'all are the village, but this is my tribe. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Well, thank you, God. Well, okay, I guess. Okay, so, all right, so we look forward to sharing with you guys.
Yes,
always. And thank you guys
for coming
in.
Thank you for sticking with us too, because you know y'all know we raggedy sometimes, and I think y'all like that. I think I really like that. Because we being honest, I'm not gonna fake, like, you know, a couple of people reached out and was just like, you know, you guys should be trying to keep things in order so you can follow. I can take that, but I'm not trying to sit here and do a whole broadcast because I'm really not trying to be syndicated. You know, I'm just trying to get my point out. She's trying to get her point out, and she's trying to get her point out. And collectively, we're trying to share with y'all because there's things we've learned, and we know that we have something to offer to people. So we're gonna give it to you just like we sitting around the house talking, and you know. It's gonna be a little raggedy sometimes.
So yeah, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and all that good stuff. Get in our Facebook group and start chatting.
That's right.
And we're not gonna make y'all wait.
No, we're not. We sit here. It's hilarious because sometimes we're talking and we'll be like, oh, all of us get notifications and like, oh yeah, okay, y'all got that? Who's answering?
Right.
Oh, you know, it's like we are on it so much. Like if y'all need it, this is what we say when Sunflower Jones said that we as a community do not reach out for therapy. We are, again, I'm going back to slavery. We are a tribal communal people. We may not feel comfortable with talking to therapists, but we feel better talking to our village. So we're creating that village. You have access to ask somebody a question for some information, we will give it to you or direct you to it.
Yes.
So all you got to do is when you're sitting there scrolling through your timeline and that question hit,
Hit us
then
up.
we will answer you.
Mhm.
Somebody's going to answer, because let me let y'all know somebody's up, at least out of the three of us.
Somebody else.
One of us is up, because we wake up to messages from one another at 3, 4, and 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
One of us is up, will answer. So just let us know what you need, and we're here for you.
And tonight, y'all, because we unloaded so much, please make sure you take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Kind of inhale, exhale, and tell your inner self it's okay to heal.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay to start over and let go. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I got. That's all I got.
Yes. Thank you guys for
and I think
Thank
we'll be back in 2 weeks. Probably, I think that's like November the 5th or something like that.
Yeah,
Is that your birth? Is that your solar return weekend?
It is, but I'll be in the I will be in the building that Friday for sure.
Okay, all right,
for sure.
All right. Listen, I don't care. You can take them phones wherever you go.
Facts.
All right, guys. You guys be well. You stay safe. All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.